Okay, let's start the show.
It's January 31st, 2013. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Joining me today, Norman Chan.
I thought there would be a grander intro. This is really the first podcast of the year, the first real podcast of the year.
Well, hold on. Now, that's a little rude to Wes and Joey and other fine folks who
Joey has
in.
not guested on the podcast this year.
Joey came in after CES. Sat down on the show, didn't he? Or was that Wes?
Wes came in after CES.
Was Joey the before CES show?
Joey was before CES, and then we had many podcasts at CES.
Those don't count.
Those don't count.
No.
Just like the one after CES doesn't count. This is the first podcast of the
I
year.
treat every podcast like it counts. Your apathy toward some podcasts over the others.
Yeah, of
Each
course.
week is an opportunity to be excellent and entertain and inform. If you don't feel that that's an important part of this show, then, you know.
It's debatable.
Maybe we need to have a talk.
It's debatable.
Making his triumphant return to the Tested desk, Gary Whitta.
Hello.
How are you doing, Gary?
I'm all right.
You're sharing the seat with a tumbler down there. How does this make you feel?
Much less robust than the quote-unquote real tumbler. I've already managed to
Snap
break
off
it
a
just
piece.
by,
You
just
broke
by
something?
looking at it. Yeah, a couple of pieces snapped.
I'm afraid to touch it because it looks really delicate.
It's really fragile.
Yeah. I don't think that thing could actually tumble.
No.
No, or make shrinks or anything.
No.
Much like Zach Galifianakis' Between Two Ferns podcast and show.
Hold on,
now
explain
Between Two Dads.
Well, you know, there's always an opportunity for you, Norm, to close the gap.
No,
Because it could be my three dads.
Between Two Dads.
Norm has plenty of time to catch up.
My Two Dads.
That's true.
Yep.
Hold on. Which dad is the traditional dad and which dad is Charlie Sheen?
Wait, what?
No, that's a different show.
Wait, no.
Oh, isn't that two and a half? That's two and a half dads.
Men.
Oh.
Not Two and a Half Dads.
Well, what was My Two Dads then?
There
Was that about a non-traditional
That was the
relationship in the 80s?
That was the one with
Paul Reiser.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Paul Reiser, before Mad About You, was on a show called My Two Dads.
That was a real show.
That
Yeah,
was
it
a real
girl
show.
And she had two dads.
Right, but it wasn't a non-traditional
80s?
relationship. They weren't homosexuals.
They were not?
No.
No, it was just that they both kind of dated the mother who was now out of the picture.
Is that it? I thought that maybe
as
there was
I
a
re-
custody thing.
Well, I think there was. I don't think they ever really knew which one was the real dad, so they both just kind of agreed to raise her together or something. I'd have to.
What was the Charlie Sheen one?
That's Two and a Half Men.
Or not Charlie Sheen. What was the John Ritter one?
That's 7 Rules for Dating My Daughter.
The one
Or
before
13 Rules for...
What was the one with
Full
Suzanne
House?
Summers?
Full House? No.
Three's Company.
Three's Company. This is not Three's Company.
Also starring Don Knotts.
Not Three's Company.
And but there was another
My Two
Don's
Dads.
Not, too.
What?
There were two Mr.
Well,
Ropers.
there was originally the Ropers, and then Don Knotts came along after the Ropers left and had their own show.
Oh, really?
And he became Mr. Furley. He was the replacement for the
Mr.
Ropers.
Furley was better than the Ropers.
I agree. I
like-
think that's when the show really took off, is after the Ropers left. There's another popular hit show, American show, that was actually based on a British format.
Really?
Yeah.
Three's Company? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of Three's Company except for the parody that was in the movie where they go into the TV.
Pleasantville?
No, not that one. The one before that. The evil TV, the devil comes and makes a deal, and you have your free cable. But then they get
Videodrome?
Sucked into not Videodrome. They get sucked into TV, and they go between all the TV shows.
I don't know.
Amazon Women from the Moon?
Someone out there knows what I'm talking about. Three's Company was about.
Uncomfortable sexual situations. John
Yes.
Ritter pretended he was gay. It's the exact opposite.
Did he pretend he was gay?
Yeah, so the Ropers wouldn't
He
be
had-
suspicious that he was sleeping with the
The
two women.
Ropers and later Mr. Furley, who were both very conservative in their views, in order for them to have this convenient situation where a guy, because you got to remember this is the 70s, so it wasn't acceptable as
Yeah.
it is today.
He was just trying to
the
get
idea,
with-
the idea of a guy living with two girls was considered morally wrong.
I think it was a
So the
roommate
only-
situation. But
Yeah,
maybe
they
with
were just.
benefits.
It was just a convenience thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a swingers
In
thing.
order for the landlord to accept it, he had to pretend to be gay.
So that was more acceptable socially.
It was more acceptable to be gay than the idea of a straight man living with two
Wow.
women.
Yeah. 70s were weird, man.
And so that led it to lots
But
of funny
John Ritter in the show
situations
actually
and-
was like super straight, like he was a player.
Yeah.
Right.
And that
He was-
obvi- and that
He was trying to
obviously-
get with them, both of them.
You know what my
all the time.
You know what my favorite episode of Three's Company.
I've only
is?
watched probably 2 episodes of Three's Company. Was it the one where there was a crazy mix-up?
It's the one where everyone, there's a big misunderstanding
Yeah.
and everyone gets their wires crossed.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
That seems about right.
Yeah.
Those are all. That one was
Sounds
great.
like a sitcom.
But it's actually a master of farce. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Frasier and many other shows that came along afterwards were all kind of inspired by that classic. The crazy misunderstanding is a staple of situation comedy.
Well, and it was one of the early like super racy.
For the time,
the
it was
time,
pretty
yeah.
racy.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Skippy outfits.
And I always was more. I was of the two girls. I never really found the Suzanne, the ditzy blonde wasn't really for me. I liked Janet, the smarter one with the short,
smart
dark
brunette,
hair.
yeah.
I liked her.
Oh, was
better.
that like the Marianne?
It's kind of like a Ginger Marianne
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who played Janet?
What is it? Hold on. there's-
I don't remember. She's the one that like wasn't as well known.
but she was the one that John Ritter was into.
No, he was into whatever.
Well, that's true. That's true. Anything that moved.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
So it's been okay. I've been out for a week. I missed last week. We didn't do a show last week. It seems. Thanks for memorializing.
Well, it's all
that.
on your laptop.
What?
All the software's on your laptop.
You can run everything you need
I
here
don't
without
have
my
any-
laptop.
No profiles.
You don't need anything that I have in order to make the show happen.
Podcast every day.
Yes, we can podcast every day.
We should have a dedicated computer for podcasting then.
Okay, well, we can talk about this later because it is super simple to set up everything that we have. If you have GarageBand, you can make a podcast happen. Actually, if you have a camera and a mixer, you can make a podcast happen.
Oh, we have all
Anyway,
these things.
yes. So lots of tech news. CES happened.
Do you want to talk about having a child?
I figured we'd save that for what we're testing because it's, well, I mean, we can talk about, I had a kid. Well, my wife had a kid, to be technical.
Was it laborious?
No, it was really easy, actually. It was surprisingly easy. We went to the hospital. They had to induce her because her blood pressure was up. And we went to the hospital, slept on what I would describe as the most uncomfortable cot I've ever experienced in my life. It was so bad that after about 3 minutes of laying there like a human burrito, I just threw the mattress on the ground and slept on
that's
the floor.
intentional.
They're not comfortable.
Well, that pull-out bed thing was a step up from the one that you slept in the delivery room. Because the one in the delivery room was like a Boy Scout style folding cot, like a rollaway thing.
Yeah.
Is it actually a mattress though?
It was a kind of rubbery mattress, but the problem was that the springs were only moderately attached. So when you sat down in it, you instantly sunk about 8 inches, which seems like it might be cozy until you actually think about what that does to your shoulders.
And
when
how
you're
long
trying
are
to
you
sleep.
supposed to sleep there? Like how long were you supposed to wait?
So we got there at 10 o'clock at night. And they do some stuff, some medical stuff, and then that's supposed to take 6 to 8 hours, and then they do some more medical stuff, and you get this drug called Pitocin, which is supposed to kind of start contractions and stuff like that. So we actually started it took a while to get the IV because Gina has tough veins, and we didn't start the medicine until like 2. So we were up really late, and then we got up at 6 to start the other medicine, the contraction medicine, and then like 3 hours later we had a kid. So
Yeah, you had the exact opposite of our
yeah,
experience.
I appreciate your very non-explicit description.
well, we can talk about that.
No.
'cause
There
There was
I
some stuff
appreciate-
that happened that
Yeah,
I didn't really
went to the hospital.
expect.
No one doesn't like the visceral
Went
part
to the
of it.
hospital, took a nap, took some happy medicine. Baby
then-
came out, and then the baby
and then
came
the stork
out.
arrived, dropped a lovely fluffy bundle into
And then we all
Will's
went
lap.
home.
Yep.
Norm,
That's-
you are
that's the
clipping
great-
hard. You need to
that's
get a
the
little
great-
bit back off of that mic, I think.
That's the great story version.
No, so yeah, there was some biological stuff that happened during the actual delivery
Nope.
that I didn't fully appreciate.
A lot of
Biology-
There's a lot of
biology
biological
is-
stuff.
Yeah, like
Not welcome here.
There was just so much bodily fluid. It was an intense amount of bodily fluid at any
Yeah.
given time during the event.
Yeah.
The smells were very interesting.
I do not want to know about the smells.
Well, you'll know someday, Norm. One day magic,
You may as
magic will
well,
happen.
kind of gird yourself now with this knowledge, so that when it happens to you and you're staring it in the face,
You wanna see the
When
doctor?
it happens to you, because that's
the full
you wanna see our
horror.
doctor?
No.
Look, Norm. Look.
Oh yeah.
Look.
You don't want to see that.
Look.
Don't turn
You should-
around.
you should
Don't.
look.
Seriously, don't.
I'm going to text it to you. You can't help but look. I wonder how long he'll not look. This is amazing.
I think he can probably sustain it for as
Do you
long
think
as
he can go for a while?
Yeah.
Okay, I put it down. You're safe.
Was that the sack?
That's the placenta and the
Yeah.
sac.
Oh no,
Yeah.
sac should also not be mentioned.
The doctor said, "Hey, you want to see the placenta?" And then
You know,
just
so
holds it
sack,
up on
if
a
you just
stick.
take the take the letter K off the word sack, it becomes so much worse.
Oh yeah, it seems insectile.
Would you like to see your wife's sack?
Yeah.
No.
At one point, he says, before the baby is out, he says, "Hey, do you want to touch the head?" I was like,
These are very inappropriate things to say.
I think I'm actually okay on this one. Gina's like, "Yeah, I'm going to touch the head," and reaches down and touches the head. So yeah, we had a much easier run of it than you guys did.
You had a good time.
But what I will say is that the first few days were really easy. Like being in the hospital was like having training wheels. And the thing that I was glad that you had told us was to use the nurses as a teaching resource, because that's kind of like one of the things that they're there to do is help you learn how to do stuff.
Yeah, because once that support mechanism is kind of cut away, you feel very
fucking terrifying,
and helpless. You really, as much as we wanted to get out of the hospital,
yeah.
When we did leave, one thing that I immediately missed was the security feeling, like that red button.
Yeah.
That could just always have a trained professional in the room in like 30 seconds.
The baby is making a
very
novel
nice
sound.
luxury. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the good thing that we had going for us is that we had, I think, 2 nights at home, and then Gina's sister, who's a neonatal ICU nurse, came in.
Well, that's handy.
Which was incredibly useful. I mean, it's like the training wheels went right back on.
Yeah.
But then the next thing I realized is I didn't really appreciate how much effort goes into feeding the baby. Like, so basically the way we've divided responsibilities in our house is
It's very strange for you to say these things.
What do you mean?
But feeding your baby.
I know. Dude, I sit there and sometimes I'm laying in bed at night and I look at the baby and I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe they let me go home with a baby.
You don't need a license or anything. It's
No,
crazy.
Anybody can do it, it turns out.
Yeah.
You just need 2 people.
Yeah.
And they have to agree on certain things or
Yeah.
just have bad luck.
Yeah.
So the basic responsibility breakdown is really straightforward. Gina is responsible for feeding the baby because the food comes from her.
She has the
juice.
the mechanism.
Yes, she has
Which you don't.
All the powers that I do. I do not.
Yeah. Your juices have already done their job.
My juice. I had 30 seconds of fun 9.5 months ago. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all. That's the last my juices need to be used for a long time. The thing about
Norm's just got a permanent grimace on his face.
so here's the way it works. You feed the baby every 2 or 3 hours.
You don't.
I don't. I say you.
You don't do anything.
I'm
The
saying
baby is
the
fed.
second person you. If you have a baby, you have to feed them every 2 to 3 hours.
Right.
Feeding them takes between 30 minutes and an hour.
That's a long time.
So you can.
They
you
basically,
can-
they're eating almost constantly.
Yeah, they're either
in
asleep
the newborn
or
phase.
shitting or eating. One of the 3.
Like I
Probably
said,
2 at the
eat,
same time.
sleep and excrete.
Yeah.
As it was pointed out to
way to
me at
live
the
life.
time, the first 3 months they call it the 4th trimester because
Yeah.
all they basically do, they could just continue to do what they did inside the womb, except now they're outside. They sleep and they feed and they grow,
And then they have tiny fingers.
and they
Tiny little
excrete,
fingers.
and that's pretty much it.
So 14 hours
I
a
like how
day.
Norm nods like he knows what the
Yeah,
fuck we're
you
talking
have-
about.
you have no-
a clue.
You have no fucking clue.
Eat, sleep, and excrete and play games.
Norm,
That's a
I know
lifestyle.
what's happening. Norm is like, Will's been fucking on vacation playing video games
I think
and
Norm
shit
is
for the
still
last
in
2
the 4th.
weeks.
He's just never left the
Yeah.
4th trimester. Just add video games, and that's pretty much
That's right.
it.
Eat, sleep,
shit,
excrete,
grow,
play games.
play video games.
Yeah. Yeah, dinner.
Yeah. Sounds pretty fun.
So 14 hours a day basically is what she spends with a baby attached to her in some way.
Yeah.
Or on the cusp of being attached to her.
Yeah.
Now, the rest of the labor in the house has fallen to me. So that means feeding Gina, which is important because without feeding Gina,
Right,
then
she
the
takes
baby
care of
doesn't-
the baby.
Yeah,
And you take.
I got
care of
everything
her.
else.
You're like the top of the survival food chain. In a
It is
way.
exhausting.
Feeding your wife or
Feeding, doing the dishes, laundry, the dog,
Yeah.
all
'Cause
the
it's
other
all-
shit
'cause
that has to happen.
It's all on you because it's not.
Yeah.
You can't really say, "Look, I understand you're feeding the baby, but like, could you have a bit of a tidy up as well?" Like, you can't really. You just have to accept that you're going to do everything else.
Yeah, like for her right now, a good day is that she gets to take a shower. And it's before 4 o'clock in the afternoon. For me, a good day is I only had to run the dishwasher twice, and the baby. I mean, the good news is, well, okay. Quick aside about diapers. We started out thinking we're going to use the hippy dippy diapers that are
cloth
good in the
diapers.
Well, first we thought we would use the cloth diapers with
Yeah.
the inserts.
We thought we were going to do that as
right?
well.
Fuck that. Fuck that
Wait,
noise.
The list,
What-
the,
why-
list, the list of things that we thought or imagined or expected that we were going to do.
Oh, yeah.
That, in fact, the scenario ended up being something completely different. It's a long list.
Yeah, so they put Pampers on the kid in the hospital.
what's
That's
the
what they give
benefit
you at
of
the
using
hospital.
the cloth diapers with the
The
insert?
benefit of the cloth diapers is there's zero land. Oh, with the inserts, it's very little stuff goes in the landfill.
They're environmentally friendly.
Right. Basically,
Only the insert goes in landfill.
only the insert goes in the landfill. You just wash the diapers.
you'd be surprised. You'd thinking that because it's poop,
Yeah.
And
it's compostable,
watery poop.
No.
but it's not. Diapers go in the regular trash,
Right.
So
And-
they're not eco-friendly.
Right, and we're going to have to get a bigger regular trash can.
Have they not
for
come
a
up with
tiny
like
baby?
compostable?
3 times as
You
much
think they
money.
would have come up with like
Hold
eco-friendly
on.
diapers?
I'll
by
tell
now?
you about this. There are more compostable diapers. They still go in the trash, but they degrade in the landfill much more quickly, so you don't
Right.
have diapers blowing around
What's
in
the
the
premium
landfill.
on that?
It wasn't that much more expensive, and it's actually a subscription thing,
And
so it actually ends up being really
the other
convenient. They just come
argument
in
in
the
favor
mail.
of cloth is that as long as you're willing to keep doing the laundry, in the long run, it's going to be less expensive because you're not constantly buying
Yes.
new diapers.
Well, except
That's what you are doing right now, constantly buying new diapers.
I am buying diapers every 2 days. Yes.
you buy.
Are you still buying
they-
diapers?
of course.
Like nonstop at the same rate?
It's hard to know. We just buy like a huge box of them, and it's hard to know like how quickly we go through them. But
Well, so
yeah.
the
I mean, you go through several a day.
The thing right now is she's so small because she still only weighs like 7 pounds. She's so small, like the size diaper that fits today probably won't fit tomorrow. Like she's still in newborn diapers.
They grow out of them very quickly.
So you don't want to have extra diapers because it's like $10 for 36 diapers, and six diapers a day is a
We
pretty
ended
good
up
day
with a,
right
we
now.
ended up with a
$10
ton of
for a week.
newborn
then.
diapers.
$10
that
a
she
week in
grew out of.
diapers.
No,
Well, 36
$10 every other day, maybe
30
every third day.
Wait,
I
36
said
diapers?
a good day is 6 diapers.
Oh, what's a bad day?
I don't know. I fill up the diaper thing
20 diapers.
every 3 days probably.
Holy
It
crap.
weighs about 8
buy
pounds.
these collectibles while ye may, Norm, because I'm telling you, once the baby comes along,
The third childhood is very, very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started with those. Then we went to the eco-friendly ones. The eco-friendly ones don't have the double baffles and they don't seal good around the back, which means that we would end up cleaning clothes way more frequently. And because the baby's smaller than anticipated,
That's
we only
my
have like
favorite.
4 outfits that fit.
When you probably you won't have experienced this yet because your baby's still doing the really small little meconium poops.
No, we're done with the
Wait
meconium was done a week
until
ago.
you have like a full blowout that goes all the way up the back.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the kind of thing when you pick up the baby out of the crib and you're like, and Gina says, "Hey, she's got shit on her back,"
Yeah.
and it's just a big disc of poop where it blew out the back of the diaper. So that happened pretty much every time with the hippie diapers, the low waist ones. Fuck that noise. I mean, they are awesome and they have cool dinosaurs and shit on them, but no way am I having.
You need the industrial
Yeah.
grade corporate diapers.
Yeah, because the worst thing in the world is having to put new sleeves on.
Why haven't the hippies developed a diaper that
Because-
prevents the pooping up the back?
Because Procter and Gamble probably spends like $20 billion a year on diaper research,
right.
and the
Diaper
hippies
patents.
are off buying patchouli and smoking weed. You know, they're doing hippie shit. They don't care about research. They're like, hey, let's put dinosaurs on them. Dinosaurs are cool, right, man? Yeah. So anyway, the blowouts on the back, having to change the sleeves is the number one thing to avoid.
Sleeves on your...
Putting a new shirt on is bad.
Why?
Because I'm going to explain. Imagine if you were, or if you will, a tiny little thing with fingers that look like they could bend back at the
you're
slightest
you're
provocation.
constantly worried that you're going to bend their fingers back and break.
Why don't they have
Yeah.
clothes where you just button the sleeves?
Well, they do that for the legs, but I don't know. I think it would be uncomfortable for the sleeves.
For
By
the,
the,
or Velcro?
baby.
by the way, as time goes by, 2 things will happen. One is you'll get better. You'll learn techniques and ways to do that without.
We learned the finger grab technique because right now she'll grab anything you put in her hand.
Right.
So you just jab your finger through the sleeve and then pull it back real fast.
So you'll learn those techniques, and the other thing that will happen is you'll just worry about it less because you'll realize you're more worried about it than is warranted.
I've already stopped worrying about the floppy head as much because she's gotten to the point that she like kind of holds it up on her own a little bit now.
Yeah.
Do you have a nickname for the baby yet?
We have nothing but nicknames for the baby. The baby is all nicknames.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
I think I've called out my daughter by her real name probably 10 times in her entire life so far.
Every once in a while, I'll be holding the baby and I'll be like, I better use your real name so you learn your real name. Because right now, the dog knows her name, but she doesn't.
Yeah. But the thing is, you don't. I think it's only like. Our baby's not nearly 7 months on. It's at this point where you're supposed to start using their real names a lot because now they can learn it and recognize it. At
Yeah.
this point,
I can call her
but the
whatever.
baby's not, really comprehending anything you
Yeah.
say, so you can say whatever you
She's
want.
just like poop. I got to poop.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing we realized is that she is upset for a handful of reasons. She's upset because she needs to burp. She's upset because she needs to take a crap. She's upset because she took a crap or wet her diapers.
Yeah.
And she's upset because she's hungry.
Or tired. Wants to sleep.
Sometimes it's because she can't sleep, but she's actually a pretty good sleeper at this point.
Yeah.
She's still like, she'll just, like you shake
Yeah,
her.
when they're that small, the sleep
Yeah.
comes pretty naturally to them. As they get older, ironically, it becomes harder for them to figure out how to get back to sleep.
The other thing we've realized is that she loves Patsy Cline. So if she doesn't
all right.
sleep, you just put on a Patsy Cline record and
All right.
30 seconds later.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's good.
so we got that going for us.
Yeah.
Between two dads.
Yeah, I'm trying to think anything else. It's been it hasn't. The thing I told Darren, because Darren and I talked about this the other day, is that I think this would have been a lot harder for me when I was 23 or 24, and I didn't at that point realize that I wasn't the most important thing in the world. Like Norm.
Yeah, so this is why Norm doesn't want it. You need to wait a bit longer.
Norm is the most important thing in his world to him.
You need to get to a point in your emotional maturity.
No, I'm sorry.
In general,
Tested's the most important thing in the world.
where you have to get to a point in your emotional maturity where you're able to step out of the center of your own universe and put something else in it.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
That requires physics changing. You can't replace the center of the universe with something else. Just
Well,
like that.
You can
No,
replace the
Laws
center
of physics need to be.
the center of
Norm.
your emotional universe can shift.
The other thing that's been fun about this is the dog adjusting to the baby has been really
How's
bizarre.
Chloe?
I thought we might have to get a new dog before we had the baby, and she has been surprisingly awesome about the whole thing. So she,
Yeah, you were worried about that. But
I
it's
was
not
super
been-
worried about it.
Well, again, it's like just in general, all the things that you worry about generally turned out to be not a problem, but the other worries are things that you never even thought about.
Yeah.
Or anticipated.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
like the cold house.
Yeah.
We have a drafty ass cold house.
Yeah, but you went through all the emotional, hormonal changes, right? You felt like you had like the dad epiphany.
I
Moment.
at like 3:00 in the morning, as I was holding her the night that she was born, I was talking to her and I'm fucking bawling. Right? You know, I went through
yeah.
the whole thing.
Oh yeah, nothing like it.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but when we had the first ultrasound, and we had gone from the genetic screening, which was one of the worst hours of my life, where they tell you all the different things that can be wrong with your child in excruciating statistical detail, and then they tell you how the ways that they find out if those things are happening, and of course the downside of, hey, this is
Wait, that's basically the Gattaca. Yeah.
No, it's not that. It's not like they'll have a receding hairline. It's like they'll have Down syndrome or something like that.
Well,
you know,
it's on our way.
it is a step in that direction. Yes. Right now, the medical.
all that stuff's pretty scary.
Yeah, and then you roll straight from there into the first ultrasound where you see like arms and legs and a head and the whole thing. And I was like, I didn't think I could feel this good. I didn't think I could feel this happy in my life.
Just don't leave anything for the swim back.
Yeah, that was nothing compared to this. And you just look at her and you want to be a better person. I mean, that's
That's
all
the
I
part I
can say.
don't think Norm is going to be able to buy into. I don't think
You don't
Norm
think so?
has any interest in being a
Norm
better
thinks
person.
he's already the best person.
He's like, how could I possibly improve on this?
Perfection, bitch.
As he gazes into into the mirror every morning, he's like, how could this possibly get better?
Do you make the baby
I've already
say
unlocked there are no achievements left. I've like maxed out the achievements.
min max baby?
Yeah.
Do you when you're talking, like I know you do voices for the baby sometimes. Do you make the baby say wildly inappropriate things?
You make the baby say
Like you know
appropriate things.
you know how you talk for your dog. You're like, oh, you run the interior monologue for the dog. Do you not do
No,
this?
I think this is just you.
Oh, see, so when I'm sitting there and the dog is doing something dumb, I sit there and make up the interior monologue for the dog.
Do you say it out loud or do you actually just?
No, I say it out loud generally because you know.
I'm an idiot. I'm a dog.
I'm
wow,
a-
that poop tastes good.
Yeah, exactly. That's you got the gist.
I mean,
usually it's a little cleverer than that.
I do the stupid baby talk stuff
Okay.
to the extent that the baby would actually get quite upset.
Like
when,
goo goo
when
gaga?
she would hit
That
me
kind of stuff?
in my yeah, you know, all that. Well, not goo goo gaga, but like you definitely affect kind of like a baby voice,
There's a
baby personality.
There is a phrase for that.
Yeah, it's when you're
It's like
teaching him
mommy speak
phonemes
or something. Yeah.
Some people do that their whole life. It's a little frustrating, to be honest. So yeah, takeaway for me, if I was having another kid or if I was telling people who are having kids what to do, is to use the nurses to teach you, get the nurses to teach you anything you have fears or questions about, because that was incredibly useful.
They are voices of authority.
They handle a lot of babies every day, and it was a very wonderful experience. Also, they brought us a steak dinner on the night we checked out, the night before we checked out.
Not like that. We didn't get no steak.
I smuggled in some beer, and well, we went to the Pacific Heights Hospital, not to the teaching hospital.
The best part of it for me was the week that I was in the hospital. I basically lived on nothing but Subway and Panda Express, which sounds terrible to a lot of people.
That's pretty good for
That to
you,
me
yeah.
is the high life.
And then they kick you out.
And I was worried that I was going to put on weight because of all the shit food I was eating. Because I just
No.
the last thing I care about right now is my diet. I just want to whatever.
Yeah, eat as much as you can as fast as
But
possible.
I actually lost weight over that week because whatever I was taking in, the stress just burned the shit out of it.
Yeah, you were pretty well, and also you weren't sleeping.
Weren't sleeping.
So we were there for 2 nights, and you guys were there for 5, I think.
Yeah, we were there for a little bit longer.
At the end of the third day when we were checking out, I was just like, I don't know how the fuck they stayed here for another 3 days because I would have lost my shit completely.
It was miserable.
Yeah. So anyway,
Well, that's great.
That's
Well, congratulations, and I look
thanks.
forward to tracking your progress over the next 6 months or so to see how it aligns with the experience that we've been having.
Well, so there's been requests for a dad cast. I don't know if we can find time to do that,
Get Vinny
We
in.
just basically did it.
but we can get Vinny. Maybe we have more
Is it a
upcoming
support group,
dads.
or is it a?
It could be a little of
Well,
both.
you, me, Vinny, and Darren would all be like.
Well, and
would be a good.
Get Jeff Green in for
combo.
the old dad perspective.
Yeah,
we
he's
we
like-
could have a rotating host of dads.
Jeff
Yeah.
Green just sits back and laughs.
I think with
He's
something
past all that.
we could just do this on
Yeah, I mean,
Google
Jeff Green
Hangout if
just
we
sent
wanted.
his daughter to college. Like he
Yeah.
basically has reached the end game.
He can laugh.
You can be like the
He's
other
Bill Cosby.
version
He's like-
of the like the one that Veronica does with
Oh, the vaginal fantasy hangout.
Yes, yeah.
We could do that. Snyder's about to have it. I don't know if we're supposed to say that, but yeah. I mean, we have
There's been a little bit of a mini baby boom lately.
I think we could. I think it's something we could do on Hangouts at night.
Google Hangouts.
If it's, maybe I'll look for interest. There've
Yeah.
been a lot of requests.
Yeah.
It'll be like that movie.
Change up.
Terrible.
The change up.
No, not the change up. The one what you expect when you're expecting with the dad.
Oh, I never. That book is terrible. The
You are
movie
living,
has
you're,
to be
you're
bad.
living the life.
No, because the other thing that we learned from having Gina's sister around is that most of the shit that you think is bad or worrisome or whatever isn't worth worrying about. The only thing to worry about is if they're not peeing or if they have a fever.
Can you ever see yourself doing this, Norm, or do you imagine when you look forward, like way off into your dotage,
You don't
that you're
think-
basically like going to be like the hipster Hugh
No,
Hefner?
don't think more
Hugh
than
Hefner had
3 years
kids.
in the future. Hugh Hefner has a lot of kids. These
Yeah.
kids live in the backyard, I think.
Yeah, they just
Right?
in
They
a
live in
pen.
the side mansion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You got to do it because like it's basically the
gotta do
greatest
it.
interactive
You gotta
toy.
do it.
Yeah, it's the experiment of the life.
It's a very expensive toy.
Yeah, it's not that
It's
expensive.
a very expensive toy, and you can't ever just like put it away.
Yeah, you can.
What?
I mean, it's frowned upon. But they have pack and plays. That's basically baby prison. You just smack them in there and they're
Well,
safe.
that thing that we got, you're going to want one of those. Trust me.
The command center?
Yeah.
That thing looks terrifying.
The jumperoo, but the baby loves it.
Our house isn't big enough for that stuff. That swing that you guys have is
Our
too
house
big
is-
for our house.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like I had to put that's in my office. So when I want to go play a video game, we put her in the swing and she sits back there and we
I've
play
told you,
video
it's
games
amazing
together.
how much space something the size of a bag of flour can actually take
Oh
up.
my god. It
Wait
is-
until you've
All-
got
it's all the
to travel
accessories.
with the baby.
The
The baby has more
accessories.
luggage than you do.
The worst part of the whole thing was when I had to put the co-sleeper. So we have a little crib that goes on the side of the bed.
Yeah,
and
the
it
sidecar
has,
thing.
Yeah, so it goes on there, but it has a little wall so you don't actually roll over and crush the baby or something.
Right.
And you attach it to the bed
Terrifying.
by putting a nylon strap across the side. It has a big, like, flat piece of plastic, and that holds on to the other side of the bed, but then you have to cinch it down. But the thing you don't realize is that one half of it is all the way against the wall, and it's probably in a corner because you want to put it out of the way as much as you can. So getting that thing cinched in tight enough that there'd be no gap was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. And of course I did it by myself because we were dumbasses and didn't do it until we brought the baby home. So I was standing there with the mattress lifted up on my back, cinching the thing down. It was real bad.
It's like the same thing as a car seat. Like you're not satisfied until it's like so tightly jammed in there.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, our car seat has zero lateral movement.
Yeah,
it
that's
is
what you want.
it is the tightest I could get it without probably damaging the car.
Are
Yeah.
you okay taking the baby out? Car rides?
We've gone on 2 car rides to the pediatrician both. You're not supposed to really take them out for 2 weeks. So tomorrow is the 2-week birthday, but the car rides are a little bit scary. I mean, I avoid freeways still.
Yeah, you'll be a very cautious driver for some time.
Like some guy pulled out about a quarter of a mile ahead of me yesterday when I was going maybe 25 or 30 miles an hour, and I started
Yeah.
cursing at him for cutting me off. You know, it's the normal.
Yeah.
Like walking.
I got a baby in the car.
We haven't gone on stroller rides yet because Gina's not cleared to walk yet. But I'd like
Right.
to go really
That's a
exert
good
herself.
neighborhood to do walks.
Yeah, it's nice and flat. We'll do some stroller walking. Chloe likes walking with the stroller. Sometimes I take the stroller out and just push it with the
Like
dog.
train
So
Chloe?
we're getting her used
Oh,
to
that's
walking
good.
with the
Yeah,
stroller.
good idea.
Yeah.
You want to talk about technology?
Technology? I mean, we can if you want. I don't know.
I mean, I can take it or leave it.
I'm bored at this point.
My 2 dads.
Rim.
Big week for technology. Big
Yep.
2 weeks for technology.
So the thing, like the first time I paid attention to technology in the last 2 weeks was yesterday, when I found out that somebody was having a live press conference in the morning from Twitter. Rim, formerly Rim, now Blackberry, announced their BlackBerry 10 devices finally. After what they've been this has been something that's been worked on since before the playbook.
They had the BlackBerry 10. They've announced it for a long time, and they also had those.
But this was the
developer
actual
units.
full-on.
Yeah.
This was
unveiling.
the unveil.
For realsies.
And not just the unveiling a new product, but really, I guess the way that they're positioning it is like a complete reinvention and rebirth of the whole company.
Yeah, this
and
is-
name change and everything.
while,
That's exactly
while
it.
retaining the things that people like, that BlackBerry users like about BlackBerry.
How has because I'm kind of, even 6 months in, I find myself just everything else that isn't something to do with the baby. I'm just like, I've got like maybe 10 seconds to care about that, and then I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
But like I looked at it a little bit, and how do you feel like it's been received so far?
Well-
Like the immediate reaction based on everything they showed.
So they're watching on Twitter and Google Plus and that stuff. There was a massive amount of snark from the tech press at the actual event.
Well, it's interesting because the reason I
That's
asked
not
what I was going to
surprising.
say was I actually saw some reporting. There was on CNN and a couple of other tech type blogs saying like this could actually be quite good. Some of the stuff they showed was very impressive.
Anytime somebody says this could actually be quite good, that's never a good sign.
Yeah,
that's
that's a
how
lot
you
of hedge
describe
bets.
Windows Phone.
Did now? Of course, the thing that went around and ended up being a massive PR fail is I'm sure you heard the audio of the BlackBerry the UK guy.
No.
Oh, did you not hear about that?
What happened there?
The fan site guy who got his ponytail
so
chopped off?
so the managing director, which is kind of like the version, like that's the British version of a CEO of BlackBerry in the UK, because this is a global rollout, went on BBC News Radio to talk about BlackBerry 10 and the whole rebirth of everything. And one of the BBC guy, the interviewer, had a very simple question. In reinventing the BlackBerry and all that, what have you learned and what have you taken from the iPhone? And the guy, who had clearly been very, very specifically coached by his media trainers to say, don't engage on Apple or anything else, just fucking stick to the talking points, took that so literally that it became just this embarrassing thing, because the guy wouldn't let the question go. He just kept saying, what have you learned from the iPhone?
That's terrible.
Oh boy.
BlackBerry 10 is a revolution in user interface. What have you learned from the iPhone? BlackBerry 10, and it just became this. He's like, will you just simply answer the question?
Media trainers are the worst. Like
Yeah.
they don't understand that.
I mean, it's
that
not,
makes your people look so
All
bad.
it does is make you sound like a chud, and makes it sound like you're not connected with
and of course,
reality.
it ended up, and it is a classic example in what not to do in PR and marketing, because it ended up taking up a big part of the news story when people should have been talking about the product and the features and all the kind of things they were intending to stick to those message points. Actually ended up, being kind of an internet joke about how not.
And BlackBerry has nothing to lose by saying they made a mistake and they didn't embrace touch the right way.
The real answer is obviously, look, clearly, if you're being honest, clearly the iPhone, the biggest thing I would say, if I'm the BlackBerry guy and I'm being honest, I would say, well, look, clearly what the iPhone taught us is that you don't need a physical keyboard anymore.
You don't have to.
Having said that, we feel that we've taken that lesson and perfected it, and we now have the best touch keyboard there is, because that's one of the things that I've heard is that the new BlackBerry 10 touch keyboard is really, really good. So look, we learned from that we don't need to stick to. We do have this other offering for people that still actually have to have a physical keyboard. It's still there, but we've clearly learned now that not just from the iPhone, from all other phones, that we've moved on past physical keyboards, and we need to embrace that. And so we've embraced it with what we think is the best version of the touch keyboard ever. That's the way to answer that question without embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
But instead, what we got was the guy said, "You just sound like you're reading from a press release. You just keep saying this, literally the same sentence over and over. Do you not understand it's making you
Which
look
outlet
ridiculous?"
was this? Do you know?
It was BBC News.
Newsday or
I think it was like the Today Show or one of the big BBC News programs.
Yeah.
The audio is very easy to find.
I'll track it down.
Later.
so along with BB10, which is their new OS going forward, and Playbook will support BB10, which we haven't used
so
yet.
Playbook is still. Are they
Playbook
still
is still
building
there?
those?
Oh, yeah.
They haven't.
I don't
They
think
have
they're
the Playbook
building
2.0.
them.
but they have the Playbook. Their main focus is on Z10 and Q10.
So is the 10 the new BlackBerry 10 operating system that's going to go onto the Playbook?
It will.
Yeah, that's their OS going forward. So this is kind of the first big redesign of BlackBerry OS since the beginning of BlackBerry.
And this
I
is
think.
like from the ground up, completely new.
It seems like it. I mean, I don't know how much is completely new.
I wish I'd looked at the keynote so I could speak more intelligent about it. So like a couple of things that I did that did sound good. One was this is why. So we'll get to see one on Sunday, right? I want to play with the keyboard, and some people that play with it said
Flo's getting one.
Oh, Ooh.
Some people who played with the actual keyboard said, yeah, it's really, really, as a touch keyboard, it's the best one. So I'd be interested to see that. The other thing that I thought was kind of cool, and it sounds kind of gimmicky, but this idea of this thing, Blackberry Balance, I think is kind of cool. So like one of the things I think they've tried to get away from and reinvent is we see a lot of people, like business guys, that are on the road. They have a BlackBerry, and they also have like an iPhone or an S3 or something, because that's where they do their other things.
It's like Norm, work and play.
They have to have a BlackBerry for work, but they also have their things that you actually want to do these days, like Facebook and social stuff and games and media. You need another phone because BlackBerry's never been good at that. So the idea is that BlackBerry Balance, I guess.
BlackBerry can be good at that. There are a lot of good reasons why when you get a phone assigned to you for work and it's a BlackBerry, it is a phone that is good for the email, good for looking at Excel docs and PowerPoint presentations.
But most of that is security stuff.
But as Android and particularly the iPhone have gotten better at enterprise and being a work phone, increasingly now we're seeing that IT departments aren't giving people BlackBerries; they give them an iPhone.
Well, most of the time, outside of some corporations give you whatever they give everyone, right? So you get a BlackBerry. Lots of people are still carrying Bolds from 5 years ago because that's what they pay for the enterprise mail, and they need the security because they have some sort of reporting requirement. Like if you are, it's not Sarbanes-Oxley, but there's another kind of like email retention mechanism that if your company has to subscribe to that because they're a certain type of public company or they work in the Defense Department or something like that, then you actually can't use some kinds of mail clients. Outlook will work, but you can't use Gmail.
But my point is that what was always kind of BlackBerry's bulwark for the longest time, which was enterprise work. This is the thing that as a corporate work person on the road, this is what you have to have.
Yeah.
They've ceded a ton of ground.
They've lost.
A lot of companies have given that up.
It is gone.
So, and part of the reason was people also want to have a phone that does other things other than just work. So you had this kind of ridiculous system. You'd see people juggling two phones. Yeah. So I guess the balance thing is supposed to kind of like virtualize that experience. The idea that, okay, well, it's my work phone. Here's my BlackBerry, but now I'm going to like swipe it, and now it's a fun phone. And
here's
all the fun stuff is over here. And it's been segregated in such a way that it actually kind of emulates the two-device experience. So you've got one device.
So that's actually like virtual machines where you maintain one partition and your corporate people maintain the other. Is that the way? I don't know. I didn't know anything about this.
And the work partition has all the BlackBerries, email security, and all the stuff that you want.
Right.
But you can then swipe that away and play Angry Birds and go on Facebook or whatever.
So does it feel like that this launch is more for retaining enterprise, or is it something that they're?
It has to be both.
Well, I know.
They're trying to do both,
but
so
I don't think. I don't know if consumers, people who aren't using it for enterprise are excited about this.
The smart approach, and it seems to be the one that they're taking, is they recognize that business, the value of their brand, whatever value the BlackBerry brand has left, is still as a work device.
Yeah.
Email, enterprise, corporate stuff. So they obviously still need to service that. But they also recognize that phones can't be just that.
Yeah, the future is not that.
Right. And so I guess rather than just trying to integrate it all together, they have kind of created this bifurcation where it is kind of two phones in one, and it flips back and forth between these two very distinct modes.
So here's looking at the reviews of the phones, because the hardware is I think the BlackBerry 10 we're not going to know until we actually see how it works, and I don't even know if we should probably buy one, I guess.
It's only on contract.
You have to buy it on contract?
On contract.
Well, that sucks. Well, we'll figure it out.
Verizon, $200 in March.
I'm interested more in the reviews, like looking at the reviews of this hardware, and of course it could be running pre-release OS still because they're not shipping for a couple
more about
months.
the OS than the hardware at this point?
Well,
hardware is pretty standard.
I'm talking about reviews of the hardware in terms of how the OS works.
The whole experience.
Because these are holistic devices, like the iPhone, like Android phones, like Windows phones. It's holistic. If the hardware sucks, then the whole thing's bad. If the software sucks, the whole thing's bad. It doesn't seem real good.
It doesn't?
Even the positive reviews, like The Verge gave it a 7, which is, I don't know, I don't even want to get into that, but their review scores don't tell me a whole lot. They cited battery life problems.
I hear the camera apparently is terrible.
The camera is pretty bad.
That's like, if you're going to concentrate on hardware.
Yeah.
Cameras are such a big deal of what phones are now. In a world of like Instagram and posting everything to
Yep.
Facebook and Twitter, you got to have a good phone.
Or make it.
a good camera.
Make the camera specialized to take photos of documents and whiteboards and business stuff.
Yeah, make it a scanner basically. It seems like the software is buggy and the hardware is bad on the camera, which is unfortunate. Battery life is everybody. All the reviews I read cited battery life problems.
And for work people, battery life is a big deal.
Which is, I mean,
It's like one thing. It's like one thing to be stuck at the
enterprise
airport.
mail.
If I'm stuck at the airport with my iPhone, and all I really care about doing is like playing letterpress.
Yeah.
And the battery dies. Oh, I can't play letterpress anymore. Whatever. Whatever. It's not
I mean,
a big deal.
hold
But
on.
if I need to like access my quarterly fucking TPS reports or something, or I'm going to get fired and my battery goes out, that is not acceptable.
I think you have kind of a skewed perspective of corporate America, Gary. First, but
I've never really been a part of it, so it's all just what I see in movies.
I mean, Future is the closest you came to corporate America, and that doesn't really count.
Are TPS reports not a real thing then?
No, I don't think so.
What? What did they stand for?
It's TPS.
I think it's just something they made up.
Yeah, I think
No
it sounded
way.
No,
good.
I think
No,
TPS
no.
reports are real.
Not real? They're real. Yeah, they're real.
you
What's a
go.
TPS report, Joey?
Jesus Christ.
Oh boy. The point I'm making though is that if the phone battery dies on any phone, it's a big problem.
But it's a bigger deal if it's a BlackBerry type work phone where you're really relying on things getting done.
Well, and the expectation with Blackberries has been that they've had traditionally very good battery life. Like the Bold that I carried for a while for work had massive battery life. I could go 3 days without charging it, right?
You're also doing less.
Well, of course. Part of that, I mean, that is the side effect of doing it. The other thing is the screen's bigger with the touchscreen based phone. So they're not, they have more pixels and it's an inch and a half bigger
They're all-
screen.
they've got to understand. I mean, and it's interesting that any part of this phone that doesn't really sing, whether it be hardware performance or OS or the camera, any of these, you got to imagine why it's not as good as it possibly can be. Because the guys at BlackBerry had to have been sitting around in every product development meeting going, guys, this is it. Like, this is the last chance
one, yeah.
we get. If we don't get it right this time, this company is fucking dead.
But all the reviews are reviewing it from the perspective of the consumer, from an iPhone buyer, not from a BlackBerry user.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you a secret, Norm. Corporate America doesn't really give as much of a shit about the Blackberry as they did 3 years ago.
Well,
They have to get the
They're not
people who
using it
used to
the same
carry
way.
Blackberries for work and were like, man, I really liked email on that thing. That was good. Let me get something that's as good as that today.
I want to see
but with a
whether
web
they
browser.
buy more Q10s or Z10s. Because I have a feeling that Q10s will probably be cheaper, and that's what corporations
So hardware is straightforward. It's basically straight Android phones these days. It's 4.2 inch, 1280 by 768 screen, dual core, 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon, 2 gigabytes of RAM. It has NFC, micro SD cards, micro HDMI, the 2 megapixel front camera, 8 megapixel rear camera, and it's 4G LTE support depending on
What's
carrier.
the deal with the
And $200
what's
on
the deal with
contract.
apps and ecosystem?
So-
How's that going?
BlackBerry World, which has been
That's
is
what they
their
call
is their
their-
app store.
right.
Yeah, people have been developing apps for this since the playbook, basically.
Right.
Maybe
So one of the
a little
things
bit
you've got to
before.
do when you roll out a new phone these days,
Yes.
is you got to be able to say we have all the big.
Right, we have Kindle,
we have Facebook,
we have
we have Shazam, we have
Spotify.
Spotify,
And they
we
do.
have whatever.
70,000.
Well, but there's an asterisk, and the asterisk is
Asterisk.
asterisk. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I thought Asterix was the
Asterix is the.
I thought he was
is
the
is
dog from that French comic.
Is the the little cartoon character.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Asterisk is the punctuation mark.
Interesting. I'm just
And
going to put a
asterisk
star.
is- I don't know what asterisk is. That's just
Star.
nothing.
It's a star is what we're calling it now. There's a note basically that says some of those 70,000 apps are provided via Android app compatibility. So
Because they can-
Android app
Oh, it has
developers.
Android app compatibility.
Well, so Android app developers can submit their apps to the BlackBerry World Store, and they will deliver them through that. But they don't work very well, by all reports.
Yeah, that sounds a bit
They're
dodgy.
slow. The UI is kind of janky in many
so that
cases.
70,000 number's kind of.
But
And it's only-
70,000 is overkill anyway, because we only care about the top.
50.
Are they
50
going to
to
be able to
100.
get? Because again, there's so much competition out there for the time and resources of app developers. Obviously, most app developers, if they've got any sense, are going to go for the biggest market. They're going to develop apps for Android and iOS. Like now you got Windows 8 in there, Windows Phone 8 saying, "Oh, no, develop for us
Well,
as
and
well."
Windows 8.
So, yeah,
And every app developer is going to say, well, shit, I guess, can we afford to spare 3 guys to go off and
well, app developers
do
are
the Windows
small.
Phone 8 version? And now Blackberry's in there as well, wanting them to develop.
Yeah.
With iOS is the biggest market, undoubtedly, 100 million devices, but increasingly, the small app developers, the 1 or 2 guy teams, the guys who are going to create the next temple runs, they're not hitting the top. They're not making $100,000 a day anymore because it's all the big companies releasing their apps to get to the top of the charts. There's a lot of chart manipulation. The appeal of Windows was that Microsoft paid developers to develop apps for Windows Phone.
Well, and 600 million installed seats
with
versus
the
100
theoretical
million. Yeah.
Windows 8 and Windows Phone compatibility. And when you're on, if you're a small app developer and you know that you're one of the 10 apps and there's less competition, you have theoretically a better chance, mathematically a better chance of reaching more people buying $1 apps than you would out of a pool of, many more on iOS in the App Store. With BlackBerry, they're guaranteeing that if you develop an app for BlackBerry and you make $1,000, at least $1,000 in 12 months, at the end of the 12 months, if you don't make $10,000, they'll pay the rest of it. They'll
10 grand or 1,000?
10 grand. But you have to reach that $1,000 mark. If you've sold at least $1,000 worth of apps, so you've reached a certain benchmark, but at the end
That's
of 12 months,
interesting.
you haven't reached 10,000, they'll pay the rest. So
But on the other hand, $10,000 isn't, like, if you're a dude who's living on this.
Well, yeah, I don't think they're spending a whole year making one app.
That's true. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a smart thing to do. You've got to incentivize developers because there's already, obviously, most people are going to be focused on iOS and to a slightly lesser extent Android.
The upshot to me, though, is that if the initial phones aren't particularly good, which it seems like they're okay, potentially good at maybe 1 or 2 things, and have some real flaws, like battery life to me is a real deal breaker, then, and they cost $200, they're in the same boat Windows Phone was 2 years ago, and they're boned.
So we're at a point right now where we basically have 4, and I don't know if you can really call them all major, but 4 major players.
I would say just say 4 players.
Right, 4 players. You've got Android, iOS,
Yeah.
Windows Phone 8,
Yeah.
and BlackBerry.
In the phone
and
market,
the Ubuntu
not
phone.
mobile. You're
What?
not talking about mobile as a whole. You're talking about just phones. Because if you're talking about like mobiles and tablets, then you got to count Kindle as a separate thing.
I don't think
I'm
Kindle
not. Yeah,
counts.
I'm just talking about phones.
Okay.
And those are the 4 players. I don't think we're going to see anything else emerge. Like Nokia.
Well, the
I guess
Ubuntu phone
that's
thing
basically
is-
gone away.
Ubuntu,
They're-
Firefox. Yeah.
There are some other things that may or may not actually happen.
In terms of the 4 main ecosystems, I guess my question is, Android and iOS are obviously very well established. Windows Phone 8 and BlackBerry, the new BlackBerry,
Well,
remains to be seen.
Compared to BlackBerry, Windows Phone 8 is well established.
Yeah,
I mean, just to be clear.
I guess my question is, over time, when this all shakes out, are we going to see that the phone market can support all 4 of these, or is something going to have to give? Like, is at least one of these going to have to go away?
I think, well, Windows Phone's not going to go away. Microsoft's going to keep dumping money in that as long as they have to.
But,
make it a thing.
Microsoft has dumped endless amounts of money into other things and then still eventually been forced to give it up.
Yeah, but I mean, it took them 10 years for the Xbox almost.
It's very
And it worked
different
out in the end.
because each of those companies makes money in a different way. So
Well, I think Will is right in the sense that even with video games, even with the Xbox, where they could easily have gone given up at any time and say, you know what, video games just wasn't for us.
3 years into the first Xbox, it was grim.
But they kept going until now they're the biggest player in the market, and good for them. Well, yeah, they are.
Okay.
Who's bigger than
Sony and Microsoft sold the same number of units over the generation.
Is that right?
PS3 and
Yeah.
Xbox 360.
Yeah. Worldwide, probably not in the US.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
That's
not sure about that.
I've seen that number
360
cited.
is
Holy
the clear,
crap.
I think 360 is the clear leader, but in any case, they achieving even if you're right and they're just having achieved parity with Sony, which previously was the major dominant player in the last generation, is a huge achievement. Sure. And then again, they did that really starting just like as they saw an opportunity and they went for it. But because mobile and phones has emerged as the absolute critical tech sector for the the next 10 or 20 years. That's not an area where Microsoft can say, yeah, we gave it a go and it didn't work out. Like, they have to be in that market. So, and if that means they have to continue just forcing money into it until they've managed to somehow brute force some kind of market position. That's what they're going to have to do. So you're right, there's no way for Microsoft to ever say, yeah, we couldn't do that.
According to Wikipedia, worldwide sales were 99.38 million sales units sold for the Wii, 70.2 million for the PS3, and 70 million for the Xbox 360. Over the entire generation as of September.
But the
Wii doesn't count because they had no attach rate on third-party games.
No.
And PS3 had fewer anyway.
But anyway, the point being, I agree with you. Microsoft cannot ever say, they can't give up on that market.
It's too big a market for them to bail on.
Too big a part of their P&L, overall company P&L.
Yeah.
So
it's where future growth is going to be with Windows.
So Microsoft's not going to go anywhere because they've got the money to stay in the game no matter how much they continue to
RIM,
lose.
on the other hand, does not have the money to stay in the game.
They obviously are the number. iOS iOS and Android obviously are locked in. They're just huge money makers.
Yeah.
Microsoft has the money, can afford to lose money for.
Well, let's be clear. Android is not a moneymaker for Google.
But the point I'm making is it's a hugely entrenched and accessible platform. It can't just go away now.
The reason Google can afford to not make any money on Android is because they make all their money in ads.
Right. Yes.
And that's a big
more
difference.
people using their. The thing is, Google is in the app business, and having apps having a platform makes it easier for them.
They're in the app and the ad business.
Too many handset makers at this point rely on Android for them ever to give it up.
I mean,
they're not all going to go away and build their own operating system.
If Android goes away, then they'll do the Amazon thing.
So BlackBerry clearly is the one that is the most poised to go away. But that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, the moribund talk of BlackBerry. Basically not being long for this world has been around for a long time. So the question is whether or not this last gasp mega gambit of the BlackBerry 10.
Look at something that did go away. So Nokia Symbian did go away,
and it was never good enough.
And they it's like what Sega, instead of making hardware, they made software. Now Nokia, instead of making software, they make hardware.
It's funny. I'd say like, Android's never going to go away, or iOS is never going to go away. We would 5 years ago, we would have said the same thing about BlackBerry, and now look where it is.
I don't think 5 years ago we would have. I think 7 years ago.
Yeah, 7 or 8. When BlackBerry was at its most dominant, and everyone I had a BlackBerry. Said the last phone that I had before the iPhone came out was a BlackBerry.
So this is the thing.
It was inconceivable at that point, and then suddenly the iPhone came along, which was probably the most disruptive tech product in the last generation.
Last 10 years, yeah. That's the lesson, is at any point, the entrenched incumbent can fail if they lose touch with the audience.
Yes.
If Apple if Apple does the same thing they did with the Mac in the mid-90s, then iOS will stop being a thing 10 years from now.
And of course what happened was what we think of as a phone fundamentally changed so much in the post-iPhone era that the idea of this phone just being a very capable work email machine just became an outdated concept.
I mean, your BlackBerry probably had a web browser. My Windows mobile phone had a web browser. Both of them were unusable.
Yeah.
So we didn't think web browsing was important. And then you got an iPhone, you're like, oh, wait.
So what's the next thing that you're going to care about?
Glasses.
If I knew that, I'd be a billionaire.
Contacts.
If I knew that, I'd be building it.
Augmented reality goggles. I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
Let's talk about Apple.
What do you think about this whole business? This has become my new tech pet peeve, and I think this is an example of a company. This to me has become the new bellwether for a company not having a fucking clue.
Okay.
And you would never see Apple do this, and I don't think you'd ever see Google do it either.
What about Amazon?
I don't think Amazon.
Explain
I think the companies that know what they're doing, and I would describe those companies are Apple, Google, Amazon,
Netflix,
and probably I'm talking about the
Facebook.
really major Facebook are the four big companies that really know what they're doing. None of those companies, and you see other companies do this, would ever say, "I'd like you to welcome our new chief head of strategic vision,
Alicia
Keys."
Oh, I knew where this was
or Lady
going.
Gaga. This is the new, my God, we're so desperate, we haven't got a clue what we're doing. We think this will make us seem cool.
Hey, will.i.am has worked for Salesforce for years.
Yeah.
Golf shirts. I think that is, if you need to hire a musician to tell you why your product should be cool, you have real problems.
It's a gimmicky move, and I really think that it's a great
Canadian
sign
thing.
that the company is just completely
Polaroid was from
clueless.
Miami. That Polaroid thing with Lady Gaga, though, Polaroid now is not Polaroid of old. They were bought by a holding company.
Yeah.
It's just an IP company
Yeah.
now.
And of course, it creates this embarrassing situation where Alicia Keys comes up and says, "Oh yeah, I'm totally into the BlackBerry. That's the device," and then 5 minutes later tweets something from her iPhone. It's just people see that, and it's just embarrassing.
Jessica Alba is the official mom of Windows Phone 8.
Yeah.
Tweeted from my iPhone.
Oprah from
Right.
Surface.
This is happening all the time. Every time they roll out one of these celebrities saying, "Oh yeah, I like this new tech product," they tweet something from their iPhone 5 minutes
So
later.
what do you think is going on?
And it's really revealed to
in
be a
their
joke.
heads? Is it because they look at the success of Beats by Dr. Dre or something? Like, what's celebrity tech
But
endorsement?
that kind of has overlap that kind of makes sense.
They look at it as a cheap and easy, not cheap certainly, but an easy way to grab some kind of cool factor.
Well,
but the problem is we live in a world where most people can see right through it.
I don't think so. I don't think most people see right through it. And I also think that they do it so they can get people on boxes. I think probably not Jessica Alba and maybe not Alicia Keys, but having Lady Gaga on photo printers at Best Buy probably moved a lot of photo printers
there's
at Best
nothing
Buy.
wrong with having those people as a product spokesman, but trying to present them as like someone who now holds like a key strategic position in the company.
I think that's just a way for those people to get more money.
Alicia Keys sitting there while the BlackBerry guys are talking about.
It's obviously a token position, and to suggest that these people are actually in there like running some kind of media strategy for these companies is a joke.
I think having a normal, and I'm not suggesting that Alicia Keys is a normal human being, but I think having somebody who's not a business person wearing a golf shirt and a pair of khakis sitting in one of those meetings is probably a good thing for the product.
There are some people, to be fair, there are some people out there who actually are, you think of them as like musical celebrities, but they're actually also very, very savvy businessmen. Like I read an
J-Lo.
I read an article the other day about Jay-Z, and it was all about what an incredibly smart businessman he is.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed. I didn't know that was part of his repertoire, but he's a very, very smart businessman. He is someone that he started a media company or...
Well, and he had clothing lines and the whole thing.
I'd be like, you know what, he's probably put a lot of thought into it.
Justin Timberlake.
All I'm saying is if somebody wants to hire Will Smith to endorse a product as a creative director.
Which Will Smith are we talking about?
Creative director of.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the creative director of any company you want. We just, my only requirement is we not show a picture.
I would love it if like Nokia or someone did a big keynote. They said, and we've just hired our new head of strategic vision, Will Smith, and people get all excited and they roll you out. They're like, oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fuck.
Yeah.
It's that the Michael Jordan ad all over again. Take us to the big stage.
Okay, we have a lot of other news to get through because we haven't done this in a couple weeks.
So the verdict on BlackBerry 10 is what?
I think they're fucked. I think if they're rolling out a product, it needed to be best in class. I mean, if you're competing at $200 with the iPhone and a dozen Android phones, you have to be better than them. It's not.
So your view is not that they're basically so fucked that no matter what they do at this point can help them. It's just that maybe something could have, but you don't think it's.
I think that they whiffed. I think that if you're going to release a product after 2.5 years,
and you say that without having seen the phone or anything.
I say that reading the five reviews of the early release phones, and everybody had the same basic conclusion.
I think you're right in the sense that in order to claw back position in the market as competitive this one, your phone had better be amazing.
If you're moving from an iPhone 4,
gone? 2 years?
I don't know how much money they have. I have no idea. If you're moving from an iPhone 4 and you buy a BlackBerry and it takes shittier pictures than your 3-year-old iPhone, 2-year-old iPhone, are you going to be happy about that or not so much?
Those pictures were not acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, now in fairness, that Gizmodo thing was worst case scenario because it was in a practically dark room, which I think was unfair. But the Verge also reported the buggy
I saw
cameras.
had pictures taken in a whole variety of situations.
The Gizmodo story I thought was.
They said the low light. What I said, the low light performance was very bad, but they had pictures taken in with a flash, without a flash, indoors, outdoors, all kinds of situations, and it seemed like the BlackBerry camera was the worst one every time.
I mean, you can't do that at this point.
No,
there's no excuse.
No.
Wait till you see the phone.
Yeah, I think you look at what their run rate is and look at how much cash they have, and then do a quick division, and that's how long BlackBerry has.
We'll see.
Apple earnings and outlook. Apple
last week.
Yeah, last week did their quarterly earnings call for the holiday quarter, right?
This isn't tech news. This is business news.
But there's a lot of people saying that Apple and on the business side, they lost a ton of money in their stock value. Whatever, we don't care about that. But they sold a ton of iPhones. They sold a ton of iPads.
50 million iPhones, was that it? I remember seeing that.
No, it's 50 million.
It was 50 million
large
iOS
number, but
devices.
the bigger thing that came out of it on the product side is that they could not make enough iPhone 5s or iPhone 4s. They couldn't make enough iPhone 4s, which was surprising. iPhone 4 is free now.
Yeah, it's the $0 phone now.
And out of all the Apple talk last week, a lot of people were coming, and even before that, people were asking when, and they asked on the earnings call, when is Apple going to come with a low-cost phone to compete in the emerging markets in China? Because they make money on hardware, but the trend is for at least Android phones, very cheaper phones.
And Nokia does the same thing, actually. Nokia does a
Right.
free...
Because you got to remember, it's easy to forget this in the United States. A lot of other countries around the world don't have that subsidized contract model.
most countries don't have the subsidized
you gotta
contract.
pay for
Outside
that
North
phone.
America, Canada has it worse because Canada it's a 3-year contract.
So the thing that was interesting to me, the thing that's interesting to me about the iPhone 4, at least from the U.S. perspective, is that if you're looking for phones for kids, this is something I talked to some family members about over the holidays, the $0 on contract iPhone 4, if you're on a shared data plan, basically means it's no cost. It's $20 a month to add your kid with a data
give your
plan and
kid-
give him an iPhone
And take your data plan.
and take your
but you
data.
already have to be on a shared data plan, one of those new shared
You
data
already have to be on the shared data plan, but
additional $20, which is a fair deal.
yeah,
Which
the more phones you put on that, the better that is, unless somebody goes over. Basically.
and that is much cheaper than if you want, and that is the only case where it would make sense to buy the iPhone 4 as opposed to paying the $200
Yeah,
more to get iPhone
absolutely.
5. If you're on a single plan, it makes no sense to get a 4S
And
or a 4.
there have been rumors about Apple making a lower cost.
So there are
phone, right?
two prevailing rumors which, on the face of anyone who follows Apple, it just doesn't make sense. People are saying one.
Apple's never really competed in the low end of the market. Apart
Lower
from,
end
like, some of
phone.
the lower end iPods. That's pretty
Everyone
much it.
says, and there have been mock-ups and people with trusted sources saying that a low-end phone is coming, a plastic phone is coming, for whether for the U.S. or for emerging markets, and two, that they have to, quote-unquote, have to make a 5-inch phone. The Apple will give in to the idea that people want bigger phones.
So let's talk about the emerging markets thing
Let's
first,
do
because
that.
this is interesting.
Okay.
At some point, when the market competition is so strong in a specific area, the only way to grow your market share is to go into other markets. This is a thing that happens. It's a business school lesson, right?
And that has happened for Apple. We saw, iPhone 1 was 2007, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
There is still growth in its business in the U.S. Not everyone who wants an iPhone
Has an iPhone today,
yet,
yeah.
whether it's the 4.5 or 4.
But it's
4 or
hard
5.
growth at this point.
Yes,
is
and
difficult.
based on the growth that the company had out of 2007 to 2011,
Yeah.
that tremendous curve. In order to sustain that, to make shareholders happy, you have to go into emerging markets or China.
Or something. You have to find a new market, basically.
Sure. And if you look at their earnings report, and they talk about year over year, all the growth, not all, but a significant portion of that growth came from China, where they opened new stores and
Yeah.
it's basically double their growth last year.
Yeah, if you think the Fifth Avenue store in New York is busy, look at the one in Shanghai, because the pictures from there are always cram
So
packed.
what the analysts are commenting on is the fact that in that market, Apple can find growth because there are people there, but the market is so big there that they can't reach that long tail of people who want
Right.
very cheap phones, who refuse to pay $500, $600 for an iPhone 5.
Well, and between China and India, you have basically 20 times as many people as are in the United States.
yeah,
and
the
Canada.
potential is
It's
massive.
huge. Yeah.
Massive,
And of course, the
massive,
benefit is once you sell them the phone, you lock them into buying your apps and music from your
Exactly.
store, and that's really where the money's to be made.
It's the halo effect. So, but we know from Apple that Apple makes money selling hardware. And they have never, since the launch of the iPhone, released a product in a separate market that's not the same as what they've released in the US.
But maybe one
first.
generation back.
They're right now, the process is release something this year, next year it gets cheaper, and that is the low cost. But if you believe what Apple says about production over this last quarter, they couldn't keep up with iPhone 4 production. Maybe that's because they scaled factory. I mean, they didn't allocate as many Foxconn factories to making the 4, but there was more demand for the 4 than they anticipated, more demand for the 5 that they anticipated. They're not
So
building
how does that tally with all the stories I heard about Apple scaling back its parts orders for iPhone 5?
So that was a big rumor. We're getting into the business side because a lot of people are.
This is really
they're
boring, by
screaming
the way.
conspiracy with stock prices. I don't want to talk about that. Tim Cook did address that. He says that you can't look at that and say that is representative of the full story, but he didn't confirm or deny that rumor either way. You can believe Digitimes if you want. They could be scaling parts orders.
When it could be, I mean, they have multiple manufacturers for every
Exactly.
part, so it could be that they scale down from
Yeah.
one, ramp up another because the cost is different or something. It could be any number
If
of
you
reasons.
follow what Apple has done, and it's not locked in that they will do what they've done for the past 3 years, 5 years, this year we'll see a iPhone 5S style phone,
Yeah.
and it will look just like the iPhone 5 with better hardware on the inside.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because they took the time to design this,
And probably A6.
and the yields will be better on the screen and on the components, and they can change out some components and call that a new phone and make improvements in software.
Yeah.
The big things that have changed since last year, though, is that their iOS guy is out, and so if they were on track for a big iOS 7 and having some Siri level feature for iPhone 5S.
Because there wasn't a big feature in iOS 6, really, was there?
No, iPhone 6 had maps.
Yeah, which was a terrible,
It
terrible. big
was
feature.
not a buy this phone because it now has maps.
Yeah.
Like the 4S was buy this phone because it now has Siri.
Yeah. Which also wasn't a great feature to buy a phone for. It turns out.
It turned out not
Yeah.
to be a great feature, but it definitely got a lot of buzz. If they're going to do what they did with the 4 and 4S with the 5 and 5S, they would need something compelling on the software side. But having huge turnaround on iOS development team,
Turnover, you mean?
we
Yeah.
don't know if that's possible.
I think that they have to be looking at Google now and looking at how that kind of pulls data from a bunch of different places and provides an interesting, almost like daily calendar type thing as we have to do something for this.
I'm sure they're amassing a ton of data.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of servers that they've built up. But on the side of the low cost phone, I think iLounge had their mock-ups that said basically it was an iPod Nano or an iPod Touch, a little thicker back and with the design language of the iPad Mini.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Okay, so moving on. The other rumor is about iPad, bigger iPad.
No, bigger iPhone. That they need to do a 5-inch iPhone.
Okay, I don't think so, but
I don't think so either. I don't think the Apple will do a 5-inch iPhone.
Yeah, the rumors that I saw were, I guess, mini with Retina display next, which is cool.
a 5-inch iPhone with the screen aspect ratio that you're using on the 5 would be ridiculous.
The S bump traditionally has never been that exciting.
Yeah.
All I heard rumor wise was like better camera. Okay, fair enough. Who cares really?
Yeah.
So we say the S bump has never been exciting, but sales for the S bump for 3GS and 4S have always exceeded sales before.
But also because their yield is better on the 4S and the 3GS.
no, just sheer quantity of sales.
That's what I'm saying.
You mean they can make more?
I'm saying they can make more of them
And
because they've
also
ramped up
that
the manufacturing for the chassis
it was
and all
still
that
at
stuff.
a point in the iPhone's life cycle where they had not reached peak demand.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
Yeah.
We don't know if they've reached peak demand because iPhone 5 they said they couldn't make enough to sell.
Yeah.
Over the
that
holiday.
tells me that they
I thought
have
it was
not
interesting
reached peak
that
demand.
Apple rolled out a 128 gig version of the iPad.
Yeah, so-
crazy high price. And I guess they must have seen that there was some kind of demand for a really high capacity
Well, they said
iPad.
specifically in the press release that this is for content creation professionals.
Right.
And
So
I mean,
if you're using it to do photo, like the way you usually do photos, 128 gigs does not sound unreasonable.
I think there are three reasons for releasing the 128 gig iPad, which they announced this week, announced for February 5th. One is that they're on we now believe, a fall recycle or a refresh cycle for the iPad, and they've done mid-cycle bumps for capacity, and it just makes sense. If NAND yield is cheap, NAND's cheap, then why not?
It's like the McRib. When
And
pork reaches a certain price, the McRib comes. When memory reaches a certain price, the iPad
And
gets
yes,
bigger.
it's expensive, but they know it's for a very niche group of users. That's two. That there are some users who need 128 gigs because they want to store all their music, or they download a ton of apps, or they create a ton of stuff. Videos.
If you use that to do your photos, to manage your photos, then
and
120
videos,
gigs isn't unreasonable.
Sure, and you're willing to pay the $100 premium for what costs Apple maybe $20.
Yeah.
They can make money there. And then three, the Surface Pro is coming out in February 9th, and if someone goes into a store and sees that there's something that looks like a tablet from Microsoft that has 128 gigs, and that they see a big stat number there, and something from Apple that also has 128
I don't think
gigs,
Apple cares about the Surface Norm. I don't want to break this to you.
I
But
don't
how
think
much-
they care,
but how
but
much-
you know what? I don't think they think that'll have any effect, but the timing is not
If only
coincidental.
they knew
That's
how
true.
much that 128 gig Surface Pro
Well, we'll get to that in a
actually
little bit.
had.
We'll get to
We'll
that.
talk about that. So I think Retina Mini.
That's the exciting one for me because I've now completely moved over to the Mini. My regular size iPad sits on the table, and I'll occasionally kind of glance at it.
I gave my regular size iPad to my dad.
But yeah,
So you're off.
I'm off.
You
I don't think I'll buy the full size. The Retina is the Retina display is the only thing that's like holding me back.
Is that
from,
because of the actual
completely getting rid of the
size
other
or
one.
weight?
It's weight.
It's everything, the whole thing. It's
So
the right. It's the
I
right
miss the
size
Retina
for me.
every time I look at a photo. That's
Yeah.
the big thing for me.
If they can get Retina into the next generation of Mini, that for me is the perfect device.
But even if you have Retina in a 7.8-inch device,
Yeah.
right, the Mini, it's your photos are still not going to look as good as a photo.
I'm comfortable with that.
On
Like
a-
that's a
on a
compromise
10-inch.
I'm willing to make.
Yeah,
I
I
wish
agree.
the colors. Honestly, it's more about the color gamut than the.
it's
than
the right.
We're talking about the
resolution.
LCD quality.
It's a perfectly
I'm talking
good.
about
It's a
LCD
perfectly
quality.
good compromise.
We're talking about LCD quality, and if they produce it in the same way they do the iPhone 5 screen, where it doesn't look like, because even with the Retina iPad 3, the image just looks
It's
beneath
deep.
the glass.
Yeah.
If it looks like the iPhone 5, then that's going to be great.
So here's interesting thing happened yesterday. There's a rumor that there's a new spin of the Apple TV, the 1080p Apple TV coming out very soon that uses an updated version of the A5X processor, which is the one from the iPad 3. The third gen iPad, the one that they got rid of. Seems like that had some heat generation issues. Nantech had a really interesting thing yesterday where they said basically, look, they think that the A5X is the A5X, this new Apple TV, is a process shrunk, better power consumption, better heat generation, spin up, so that they can put that in the iPad Mini Retina this fall. So they're
it's like
using
the
the Apple
iPad 2
TV
2.1.
to build scale.
What does a better processor in an Apple TV do for you?
Very little.
It lets you do from 720 to 1080. Their menus are.
But we're already at 1080, so why would they need
are.
to bump the processor again?
Heat.
So the reason they would do this is probably not even listed on the site. The reason they would do this is so they can build up manufacturing on that particular CPU,
Which they have not done.
which they have not done yet. In order to have massive supply coming into fall for a higher scale product.
So-
it's in the same way that Apple used the original Nanos to build demand for flash memory so that the iPhone would be ready 5 years down the road. It's the same thing on a faster
So
timeline.
your iPad Mini right now, both your iPad Minis have a slower processor than the 4.
It's an iPad 2 processor,
It's iPad 2
basically.
processor, and you assume that with the next gen iPad Mini to support a Retina quality screen, you need
Yeah, it has to have a faster
It has
CPU.
to be the 5X.
Yeah.
Not the 6, though.
It could be the 6, but it probably not given power.
But the problem with the 5X was it was very hot and
Yes.
it consumed a lot of battery. And just like the iPad 2 had a revision where it was the same processor,
die shrunk.
but it shrunk the die and they
I
went
broke
to
the tumbler
2.1.
again.
This thing's a piece of shit.
It just falls apart. You have to just look
How much
at
did
it.
that cost, Norm?
It cost $450.
That is a lot of money for something as fragile as that.
Holy shit.
Don't just stop breaking it. Just like there was a die shrink with the 2, and that really helped with battery life. The 2.1 was amazing.
Yeah, the
makes sense.
best battery on an iPad so far. Okay, so I think we've talked about Apple enough. Is
Yeah.
there anything else we want to hit before we go on, or is this it?
The only thing I'll say about that 5-inch screen is that there was a lot of. If you are in that camp that believes that Apple will make a 5-inch screen, do not believe that Apple would double the resolution again on the phone.
At least not yet.
No, there's no reason. There's
Yeah. The pixel density is still going to be as high as all the Android phones on the same resolution on a bigger screen. Except for the 1080p
Except for
phones,
the
which are
1080p
ridiculous.
phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
Microsoft earnings. I
Microsoft
didn't pay any
Microsoft
attention.
made-
Oh, they did earnings?
They did. Everyone did earnings this
It's
week.
it's earnings
it's that.
season.
It's that point. Okay.
Yeah. Microsoft made a ton of money, not surprising, because of Windows 8. Exceed expectations. But the bigger
But
thing.
hasn't Windows 8 underperformed so far? I read a story about Microsoft secretly in meetings blaming hardware manufacturers for not properly
It is
supporting.
very difficult to say. If you look at units shipped as reported by Microsoft, then they are basically on track with Windows 7, better than Vista. If you look at, I can't remember specifics, but there's
That's unit
there's
shipped because
right. There's a lot of
that's
PCs sitting
independent-
unsold.
Yeah, but that's independent of whether people want Windows 8. Like if you buy a new PC, which people have to buy
Yeah.
if they're buying new computers
At retail especially.
then
I'd like
you're
to see
getting Windows 8.
specifically. I'd like to see specifically what the upgrade, like just copies of
That-
Windows sold in a
see,
box, is
that
probably
is-
very
Well,
very
but that's
minimal.
always
That's
that's,
the better
always
metric.
no. The upgrades sold is always a tiny fraction of overall.
Right.
Well, they were
So
very
it doesn't matter
aggressive.
how
They were-
what
they were
percentage
very
rate, but
aggressive with
relative
the-
to
yeah,
7.
that's true.
Generation over generation, how many
Guys,
people paid to upgrade from Vista to 7?
We aren't going to see those numbers. They aren't going to release them.
That's unfortunate.
So
I'm skipping 8. for what it's worth.
I think it's a good. Every time I sit and look at my home server, I have a backup of my last Windows 7 install for the exact same machine I'm running today, and I think, I could just restore that backup and I'd be back on 7. Restore the backup, update it. I don't know. It's not my favorite OS, but it's also not bad enough to go through the hassle of restoring, and I wouldn't upgrade at this point. I don't think there's nothing in there that's
if
worth
I had a
upgrading
touchscreen
to.
device, I would, but if not, what's the point?
Nobody has touchscreen devices for their PCs.
Well, that's what Microsoft's pissed about. They're pissed that their hardware partners are whiffing on their product lines, the low end, the entry level, not having touchscreens and paying a high premium for touchscreens.
Well, it turns out touchscreens are expensive, guys. It's a premium product. Okay, Microsoft. Anything else out of the earnings? Office 365
The
launches.
timing also was that they launched new Office. So I don't know if anyone uses Office. I still use Office because I need Excel.
Okay.
But I think the last Office I have was 2007, probably. This is basically Office 2013. You can't buy it now. You have to rent it. It's a subscription model.
What happens to your documents when you stop subscribing?
That's a very good question. So what you pay is $100 a year
Yeah.
to use Home Premium Office 365. Your documents
$100 a year, really? Are they out of
$100 a
their
year.
fucking minds?
$100 a year, and that's not enterprise
Per family or per person?
per user.
That is bananas.
100 maybe it's per family. I'm not exactly sure how many licenses. I'm pretty sure it's per user. If you don't pay, you get a grace period where your Office will say it's expired. I mean, it's not a web service. This is different from
It's an
Office
app.
Live. You're downloading. There's still packaging. You still install it. There's still software installed in your computer in Windows that runs Office. but the
$100 a year?
$100.
They're out of their fucking gourds.
I'm just telling you.
What does it do for you?
Especially in today's world where there are so many alternatives.
That's.
Because Office is a big part of Microsoft's business.
Oh my god.
And they are doing online stuff too. You can use the Office web apps for free. If you don't pay after 1 year, then you can use Office to read only for a couple months, and then your files will still work anywhere else, and you can upload it to...
Can you save them locally, or is it all cloud?
No, you can save them locally. They will also save in the cloud, and you can also edit them in your SkyDrive and with your Office Online.
Oh my god.
But locally, if you want to use your full Word, all the Word features, all of PowerPoint, all of Excel... You're on a subscription model. Well, now think of this.
So
way.
they
Is this
usually-
also
but
true
it's-
of corporate users?
It's you. No, it's
corporate users will have a separate.
Everybody pays a different price for their SLA depending on how good they are at negotiating.
Think. I mean, obviously, it's not a model that makes sense. That sounds like it makes sense today, but 5 years ago.
Yeah, it would have been awesome 5 years ago.
5 years ago, Office, a full version of Office for Home.
Before they
was-
introduced Home and Student for $100.
But a full version of Home would be $300.
Yeah.
And then they'd want you to upgrade.
That was 10 years ago that a full version of Home was $300.
And Student, and I'm sure maybe Student's getting a cheaper. I don't know if Students have a cheaper deal, but
Oh my God, $100 a year. They release a new version every other year, so you're basically paying $200 for a version of Office. They are out of their fucking minds. Sorry.
well,
I mean, that is ridiculous. Considering that if you're buying this for home, most people are using it to write book reports for their kids, and maybe run a family spreadsheet. They're going to get somebody's going to eat their sandwich. That's an insane amount of money.
Yeah, and this in a world where I can get iWork for $20 or use all the Google services for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
and Google services will only get better.
Google services are good enough for home use.
So my question to people out there, if you only use Office now and don't use Google Docs, why do you use Office? Is because
I haven't used Office in years. It feels like a relic.
Well, we're fringe cases though, because we use a I can use a flat text editor to do the work that I need to do in a word processor.
So what about Google Docs is not appealing enough that you have to use Office, is my question to people out there.
Or OpenOffice, or one of the other free Office suites, which are all pretty good.
If it's just word processing and spreadsheet.
Wow, $100 a year person. That's bananas. I hope that's per computer. I hope that's not per user.
Oh no, it's I think it's per computer.
Per computer,
Yeah,
okay.
that makes more sense.
Netflix. Let's talk about Netflix.
Okay, you guys read that big
Reed Hastings.
the big GQ profile?
He has an
Reed
awesome
Hastings?
name. Can we talk about that? Like, he has a superhero name. Reed Hastings is a superhero name.
Yeah, it is a good name.
He did a GQ interview, and the thing that everybody quoted out of that, which I thought was very telling, is that their goal at Netflix is to become HBO faster than HBO can become Netflix.
And that wasn't Reed Hastings. That was his head of
his
distribution.
major domo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Netflix is a very, very interesting company. And Reed Hastings says that they knew when they started the DVD service that it wasn't going to last.
Yeah.
That DVD, they scaled to a point, but they just wanted to get into web streaming and have enough money to get into web streaming.
One of the things I learned very
people.
interesting, I didn't know this, is the Roku box was created by Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I didn't know that.
And then they spun it off.
Yeah.
Cancel. And so Reed Hastings led the effort on the Roku box, and they were literally shooting ads for their Netflix box.
Right.
The day that Reed Hastings said, let's kill the project.
They said it's more advantageous to have Netflix on everyone's devices than on
Well, he's-
one.
if he's
what
making
Amazon's
hardware-
done with Kindle.
Right.
If he's making hardware and they're selling their own box for Netflix streaming, which at that point, this is back in 2007, was a huge deal. Best thing
Right.
of 2007, aside from iPhone, I guess, was Netflix streaming. Steve Jobs wouldn't take his calls. They wouldn't get it, then they couldn't get it built into Mac products.
Yeah.
And Reed Hastings is on the board of Apple.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the board of Facebook also, I think. As a collaborative service, Netflix as a company they're not one of the big four. There you go again, Gary. Just don't touch it. Don't break
Well,
my
so
tablet.
the thing that's happened, if you look at the comparable in 2007, it was Vudu. Vudu was the exact same service, same content basically, $10 a month, $15 a month, same pricing as Amazon, as Netflix Instant with the DVD rental before they had the standalone Instant sub.
Yeah.
And they were only making their own hardware and had apps on a very limited number of platforms, and they're done as a result.
And also,
what
they didn't
was-
have a disc business to help build capital.
That's
That's
true.
the thing. What was smart about, and whether or not it was intentional, I don't know, but I think what was smart about Netflix was they established a very, very well-known brand through a model that people could understand easily, which was discs through the mail. You didn't need an app, you didn't need a device, there wasn't any streaming, you didn't need to worry about your broadband connection. Everyone had a DVD player, and you got discs through the mail. And
Yeah.
then there was a website where you ordered them, and that was very simple.
It was a very reasonable price.
And there was a while before anyone even knew that Netflix was streaming, before they were doing it, that Netflix was already a huge brand just as discs through the mail.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
And then
And
they
then
launched their
everyone tried
streaming
to-
and just ported the brand over.
And whoever tried to catch up and mimic Netflix, like Blockbuster, and do the mail service, they're going to where it's a classic Puck story. Netflix is already thinking about streaming.
we're already doing the next thing.
Yeah.
So I think that was very smart. And so I guess the news was they actually posted after some shaky quarters there for a while in the whole Flickster debacle. They actually posted some really good numbers.
Quickster.
Quickster.
Flickster, whatever.
Quickster
It's all-
almost
Quickster
killed
is the
them.
ultraviolet thing.
right.
So
Right.
Quickster, there was bad timing and had nothing to do with, the price. The time of the price increase and Quickster was very poor, and
Right.
they went down from I think $300 a share to like $25 a share or something. Now
I don't think it was ever $300 a share, was it?
$300 a share.
Wow.
So they
Inflated.
managed to bolt on a lot of new subscribers, basically.
Yeah. So now do you guys do the disc account?
No,
I
killed my
stopped
disc
doing,
account
I
a long
stopped doing
time ago.
discs. Although I got an email from Netflix the other day trying to get me back into discs, weirdly enough, saying like, we'll give you a special deal if you want to add
It's
discs
jobs,
back
Gary.
in.
It's jobs. I don't want to see those Netflix factories close. They have a lot of physical.
It was like Amazon warehouses. They have a lot of people that sit.
And look, I think there are still a lot of people out there that like getting their discs through the mail. To me, Netflix is a streaming service at this point.
Yes.
Here, the
There-
problem
there's
for
some
me is
numbers.
getting stuff back to them is always much harder than I make it. I make it much harder than it
discs
should
would
be.
sit around and not get watched. And
I had a
Well,
copy
you don't want
of
to turn into the mailman.
what was the
Orlania sketch.
what's the movie with Hank Azaria and what's his name from Shaun of the Dead? Run, Fat Boy, Run. I had a copy of Run, Fat Boy, Run sitting on my desk for probably 6 months.
yeah, I had a few that lasted way too
And
long.
that's when I
was
killed the
directed by
disc.
Ross from Friends.
David Schwimmer directed that?
David Schwimmer directed.
Wow, I really don't like
David.
David Schwimmer.
Well,
Wasn't a very good movie.
I think the really exciting news about Netflix is what we're going to start seeing as of tomorrow when they become a content creator.
and that's the
I know.
big story.
This is the
The big story is that their next step, because streaming is expensive, and there are a lot of competitors out there, which is raising their licensing fees. Netflix streaming worked because they had to deal with Starz, because Starz had the rights to on cable distribute digitally, which no one thought would be a real business.
Yeah.
Movies, and Netflix paid Starz to get.
So did Voodoo.
provide-
Voodoo was the same exact situation.
Yes, and when the Starz deal ran out, then Netflix had to renegotiate with all the content
everyone.
creators,
Yeah.
all the movie studios, all the TV networks, and the TV networks were doing their own thing.
Norm, how much did all that cost? Do we know?
Star stuff?
No. I mean the just the content acquisition in general.
You mean when?
Didn't he say they'd spent something like $6 billion
No, they said that
acquiring content?
No, they will have over the next
Okay.
3 years, but it's like hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're competing with Amazon and Apple and Hulu and everyone else and all the content owners. So they want to become a content creator now. And
So they need that. They need that to get users excited about the service.
I think there's a couple of things going on. First of all, Netflix recognizes that they're not the only game in town. They're the biggest brand. They're the biggest name. But you can still go to Vudu or Epix or iTunes or Hulu or Amazon and get a lot of the same content. Netflix, I think, still has the best choice and has the best brand, but that could always change. They're always vulnerable. You never know when the next big
Amazon
thing will come
Instant
along.
is doing very well.
So there's that.
And because they don't have, there's no like collecting. There's nothing tying you to that service. Like if I'm using Rdio, I'm building playlists. I'm managing a collection. I'm
I could give up
attached to it.
Netflix and go and swap
Right.
over to something else tomorrow.
All you need is an app.
Right. So there's that. The other thing is they of course recognize when they lost the Stars deal that. And they can always do great content deals, like the deal they did with Disney was a great deal.
Yeah.
They're going to get a ton of amazing content off of that deal. But they obviously recognize that the people that create the content ultimately are the gatekeepers.
Yes.
They're the real bosses.
Netflix is middleman.
And so
You can't build a business on being the middleman forever.
Well, they're a clearinghouse.
And so, of
even.
course, the solution, create your own content, which you can only get at our service.
So
The
in
HBO
that
style.
story, they have some numbers on how many subscribers Netflix has, and they've gained because they're a public company. And based on, you can extrapolate how much money they collect, $8 just for streaming. They make a ton of money a year. They're billions of dollars
Of
every
revenue?
year of revenue every year.
But streaming is expensive.
Streaming is expensive, and Netflix is and that's why cable providers, ISPs hate Netflix because
Right.
they are. And this is a whole network neutrality thing, but Netflix doesn't pay for bandwidth,
Right.
Which is great.
Well, they pay for bandwidth out from their ISP, but not into your
exactly.
ISP. Yeah.
That's
Larger. I mean, that is a
completely separate
yeah.
issue outside of content. In terms of content, Netflix's content guy has $6 billion over 3 years to make deals. And he's going to spend the majority of that on licensing content with the studios, which is a lot of money. He will also spend $300 million creating shows. And so if you talk about House of Cards, which is premiering, and also Arrested Development season
Which one
4.
is House of Cards? The Kevin Spacey
That's
one.
the Kevin Spacey, David
Okay.
Fincher, $100 million
Wow.
for that show for a season.
Is it like a 13 episode season or is it like
I
a
think it's
24 episode
13,
season?
the cable style.
Okay.
But here's from a user, from our perspective, this is the thing that really blows me away. The shows are produced, just like they produce shows, they're going to have all episodes debut at once.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can just sit down and marathon
as of
it?
tomorrow, you'll be able to marathon the whole thing.
So they have to be watching data about how people watch TV on Netflix and seeing that when I watched Breaking Bad, I just sit down and watch a whole season in a weekend.
They don't care about ads. The reason
Yeah.
the reason there are seasons of shows, and the reason there's the whatchamacallit, for when the networks have that.
The preview week thing, the show and tell showcase.
Right, and also sweeps.
Sweeps.
The reason they
Oh,
have sweeps is it's all for ads, and it's all manufactured dissatisfaction, is what Reed Hastings calls it. Is that it's artificially
They're stretching out the
Building
number of
up
times Toyota
participation.
can advertise.
Right, and of
inside
course,
a
look,
certain show.
Netflix.
Wow.
Netflix is a new model, and when people go online and watch a show on Netflix, they understand that they can watch them all at once if they want. So that's already the expectation. Why replicate an old business model of this fake idea? Like,
Well-
everyone's already talking about the fact, and I think it's totally true, that the old concept of scheduling and shows airing at a specific time, that's going away. And so Netflix, I think, is very smart in why would we want to be any part of the old model when there's a new one?
from a data perspective, from a pure numbers and analytical data perspective, that makes total sense. There are some social externalities that you're going to lose.
The
water cooler
girls effect where you watch the show on Sunday night or whatever.
Well, and that's the thing. What you lose is the weekly conversation where, like on Monday morning, everyone's talking about Mad Men. All the Mad Men discussion
Yeah.
blogs are online. When people can watch at their own pace, there's no schedule, there's no regimen
And
for that
you lose
conversation
all that
to
free
unfold.
marketing,
Right.
that buzz building.
Right.
You lose the entire
But this is
country
an
watching the
experiment, right?
final episode of Roots.
Variety just ran a big piece about why putting all the episodes up at once is a mistake. And
Well, Variety is a mouthpiece for the old.
I don't know if it is or not.
That's why
it
it's the most
remains to be
interesting thing.
seen, but I think it's a very interesting move.
Yeah.
It's an experiment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're spending a ton of money on it.
So yeah, original content from Netflix. I guess that's it. Gary, you alluded to this a while ago. Surface Pro, the x86 version of Surface details are out in full.
So this is the big one that is the full Windows PC.
This is a full x86 Windows PC. Can run Windows apps. It's a Ivy Bridge integrated graphics, basically,
and it's
right?
It's Ivy Bridge integrated graphics, but it's not the Ivy Bridge revision that they announced at CES. That's the low wattage.
It's last year's. It's the 4000 one.
It's the
right?
same one that's in your MacBook Pro.
Yeah,
or MacBook Air.
Air. It's out February 9th.
The pricing starts at $900.
That is a lot of money.
There's only two models: 64 gig for $900, 128 gig for $100 more.
Is that 64 gigs of usable space?
We'll talk about it in a second. No touch cover, type cover included.
Okay.
So you have to pay for.
Wait, you don't even get the basic one.
So it's just a tablet.
You just get their tablet. You don't get.
Sorry.
Even though you can run full Windows on it, you got to attach your own keyboard and mouse. But unlike the RT, there is USB 3 port.
Oh, that's nice.
There's micro SD slot. Like the RT, HDMI. And of course, capacity is a big thing. So the big hubbub this week was Microsoft's confirming.
Would you call it a kerfuffle?
I call it a hubbub.
Brouhaha?
Maybe a brouhaha.
Okay.
When you buy a Surface Pro for $900 and it says 64 gigs in the back. Now anyone who knows computers knows that 64 gigs.
Some of that is set aside.
Well, no,
we understand
with the binary, the hex to binary conversion. That binary hex conversion.
Yeah, that's it.
You lose
Binary decimal conversion.
Binary decimal conversion.
Yeah.
You lose 10%. So when you buy like a terabyte hard drive from Western Digital, it's not really a terabyte.
It's really 930 megs.
Right, and also the fact that some of it has to be
Gigs,
taken
rather.
up by the operating system and whatever else
That's
needs to be on there.
right? You buy a tablet. You buy.
So we know that we have to shave a little bit off, but not
What is
to this
reasonable?
extent.
What is reasonable to shave?
I think
think
10% is reasonable.
Yeah.
I think
maybe
you
15.
lose maybe like from 64 gigs, you lose 4 gigs to the conversion, another 6 gigs. It's about 10
Yeah,
gigs.
that seems right.
Yeah.
Seems fair.
54 gigs of usable space out of a 64 gig device.
Yeah, I would be perfectly...
Again, I still believe that the number that should be on the box should be what's actually usable after you've taken all that stuff out.
and you're talking about everything. This is an Apple fanboy business.
That should be a rule, but we don't have it.
Right.
So most people that understand technology know that when you buy a 64 gig iPad, you're probably only getting 50-something gigs of actual usable space.
Yes.
However, when it comes, and we saw this already with the RT, and now we're seeing it even more egregiously with the Pro. Microsoft is taking the piss with the amount of actual usable space you're getting.
23
It's such a
gigs.
funny
20.
Hold on, it's 23. I thought it was 23 gigs off. It's 23 gigs
23
usable.
gigs is what you have
23
left.
gigs usable.
So significantly less than half. Basically, barely more than a third.
And that's and there's no Office built in.
How big is a TF2 install? It's probably close to that these days, right? Like 16, 18 gigs?
No.
Well, plus you'd have to put Steam
TF2
on top as well.
TF2 is like
Steam's
less
small,
than 10
though.
gigs.
That's bananas.
It's ridiculous.
23 gigs because
I think
of the
that
recovery
you're
partition.
going to see a lot of complaints.
So Microsoft,
Well,
it's not
I
just
mean-
Windows though, because Windows is not that big. It's the recovery partition.
so
that
this
really
is the shadow
necessary?
restore thing? This is the
It's
restore
not
to
because-
factory?
Yes, it's restore to factory, and Microsoft says that if you have a USB key, you can just create a bootable partition on the USB key.
Yeah, why not just
Why
throw
not
in a
throw in the
throw in a
key?
cheap key?
Yeah,
Spend the
it's-
$20 and
a 16 gig key costs $2 in volume now.
Yes, and if you
When
extrapolate
you
to
buy a MacBook Air, it
MSRP,
comes with a little
a stump.
key, a little stub
Actually,
with the
mine
OS on it.
didn't.
You gotta
That
ask-
was
you gotta ask
you have to
Apple.
ask for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
ask Apple to send it to you. Include the USB key.
Yeah.
Include the
Because I'm
recovery.
telling you, people are going to
That's
be
terrible.
outraged.
How big is the recovery partition? 16 gigs?
They didn't say specifically how much.
That's insane, though. 23 gigs usable.
And of course,
on a
the argument is,
64
oh,
gig
well, you
device.
can always, it's full USB 3, you can plug in a hard drive, blah, blah, blah. But people are going to be outraged. There were already people wanting to do lawsuits over the RT, because it's happened already with the RT.
Well, you can put a micro SD card in there
It's
because it has a slot built in.
It's a big mistake. Now, it's something that maybe you expect, 5 years ago from an OEM. Like,
Yeah, I would expect Asus to do that.
Or Asus, because they make money off deals.
Lenovo did
bundling
that
crapware.
with the Yoga.
I would love to see a standard emerge. I don't think it's something you could legislate. Maybe you could as a consumer protection
It should
type
be.
thing.
This is describe the amount of free
you should have
space
to say,
available.
yeah,
Usable space.
about guns,
The number you put on the box either has to be the actual free space, and you just have to eat the overhead as the supplier, or when you say 64 gig, you should clearly mark underneath it the usable amount.
Actual space.
It's in the
4
fine
gigs.
print.
That to me is actually that is a basic consumer protection thing.
It is on
It's
the fine
false
print
advertising.
for if you buy external hard drives. It's in the fine print. but it's not
That's
in the
still
fine
horse
print
shit, though.
for
Tablets
if you
and
buy
PCs.
computers.
It needs to be more. You know how like
Well, no, on
you know how
compu-
like they had new rules where like the nutritional information on things like it's now on the
you
front
can't
of the
say
box.
0% fat if it has 2%.
Well, no, but it's not
fat.
just like, you know how like they have nutritional data on the backs of boxes, but you've got to turn the box around and look at the data, and it's not very user friendly. Most packages now have really basic, like if you want to see the basic nutritional
I think this thing's
information-
pretty user friendly.
Yes, but there's a friendlier version of it now that's actually on the front of most boxes, and I'm saying we need something like that for memory.
Like the real, like you need a pie chart with like, here's the total amount of storage. Here's this part you can't use is
No, I
red.
just need
or
a
you
number.
can't use
I
the
just
green.
need a number.
Apple, God, those Apple boxes would be so ugly.
Here's
You buy an iPhone and then it says 64 gig on the side, and the
No.
front it says in parentheses.
Because what Apple would do is actually have 72 gigs or whatever it would be of data
Yeah,
on
so it would
there.
just be a circle.
It would be whatever it is.
I don't know
whatever
about
it is that
that.
comes down so that you still have 64 gig usable left, and then advertise that.
So the problem I have with this is that the onboard storage in these types of devices is precious, right? It's something that should be cherished and really aggressively defended because
Well,
you don't have
and-
that much of it, and you usually can't expand it.
If you've
much.
ever used a low, like Leah's got a 128 gig MacBook Air, I've got a 16. I think it was a 16 gig, one of the low end iPads at one point. When you don't have a lot of overhead,
Yeah.
managing that and finding space and having to constantly deal with that is a real hassle.
Yeah.
So people that are going to go into the store thinking, oh well, 64 gigs.
Oh, yeah.
What is it on the 120? Because the 128 is
83.
Okay, so that's not as
Or
bad.
80 something, yeah.
But like you think, oh well, you know, we've all got an expectation these days, even taking into account the basic overhead of like, okay, so I think I've got about this much stuff. We all make calculations on do I need the 16 or the 32. People that are using that basic metric of what's a fair overhead and how much space they're going to have left over are going to go pick up a Surface. Are going to be outraged when they realize how little they actually have.
And the thing is, it's just wasteful because what you're doing is using the most precious storage in the machine for something that you only need once or twice in the lifetime of that product, if you probably at most.
Yep. Yeah.
So why not chuck a 16 gig SD card inside the box someplace where you can't even access it?
That's the thing is that-
and put the recovery shit there.
That's the thing is that this recovery partition really is a luxury, which is it's critical.
well, unless Windows though.
It's
Yeah.
a user friendliness thing that they wanted to build in the Windows.
Hey, we've got this awesome feature, so let's cripple the device otherwise, just so we can really highlight it.
I still want to see the Surface Pro. Otherwise,
I'm interested, but
I still want to see the compared to a Helix, the Lenovo Helix, and well, they're both out.
So, more bad news, guys. THQ finally let loose the Mortal Coil.
THQ's gone.
Makers of such fine games as Saints Row the Second, Saints Row the Third,
You know, I'm always
Company of Heroes.
always sad to
Dark-
see
the
people lose their jobs. I was very glad to see a
Darksiders.
lot of people have already managed to be absorbed into other companies. That's good news. As a gamer, more than anything, I just hope that the Saints Row franchise survives.
Yeah, so Saints Row.
I went back and played some Saints Row 3 again the
Oh,
other
it's
day.
so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
So Saints Row and Volition, who also was responsible for the Red Faction
Don't care about any of
games,
that. Saints Row.
They went to Ubisoft, who has a history of making open world games with mixed results. Assassin's Creed has been good and it's been bad.
I just really hope, you never know what's going to happen when a new owner comes in.
Yeah.
I really hope that they decide that Saints Row is something they want to continue.
I hope they just
I don't
say-
know, they're obviously only going to look at spreadsheets and pie charts. I want to see. I don't know how well the last Saints Row game did, but I'm hoping it's good enough.
Hey
to
guys,
continue with it.
make it like the last one, but even dumber is what I hope they say.
I personally don't think that's possible.
There's always
Do
room
you
for
think
more
if being
dumbing.
dumb was what hurt it in sales?
No, that's why it was so
It's the only
celebrated.
reason I would have played it.
That was tied for my game of the year last year.
Yeah, and in retrospect, I respect making.
2 years ago.
With Portal 2. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. In retrospect, I think that was a better. I mean, Portal 2 is probably better written, but as
Portal
a
2,
game that I
Portal 2
enjoyed,
was ultimately, I think, a better
Overall
game to be
experience.
admired more.
Yeah.
But in terms of just pure fun, Saints
Yeah.
Row the Third, man, I had a grin on my face just the entire time.
and where Portal 2 kind of drug in big places in the middle, Saints Row the Third
your brain had to
never.
hurt?
No, it wasn't even that. It was just that there was a lot of like walking through
You had to think in
underground
Portal.
stuff.
No,
did not
I thought Portal 2 was really well paced. I never had any problem.
Yeah,
I actually kind of want to go back and revisit.
I wouldn't mind going back and
play it.
replaying that too. So yeah, THQ's gone.
Most of their properties found homes.
Volition, Relic. The only
Yes, Relic got picked up by Sega.
Yeah,
Excellent.
which makes sense because Sega's been publishing Total War, so they have some real-time strategy history and all that. Relic also did Homeworld back in the day, right?
Yep.
So I'm interested. I'd love to see that revitalized.
Everyone's wanted to see Homeworld 3 for
Yeah,
longest
decades.
time.
Like I said, Volition went to Ubi.
Are you sure they went to UB? I thought they went to some German company.
No. Crytek bought Vigil, I believe.
But what was like Coke Media?
Crytek bought Homeworld.
There's a German
Homefront.
company called like Coke
because they've been developing
something.
It.
I don't
They
know.
bought one of them.
Oh, Coke Media. They own not the Koch brothers.
No, not those guys. There's a German media conglomerate called,
Yes.
with the same name.
And they own another
And I
brand.
thought those were the guys that bought Relic. Oh, sorry, bought Volition. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember hearing about Ubisoft until just now. Anyway,
IPs found home. Some of the development teams got jobs.
Vigil is the big one that seemed to go nowhere, which is the makers of Darksiders, which is a huge bummer because I quite enjoyed Darksiders.
Vigil's is that the Austin company? Because I thought Crytek
Austin-
bought them.
No, okay.
Pretty sure Crytek
I'm sorry,
opened up.
you're right. Coke Media did buy Volition and Metro.
there you go. I got it right.
But Metro, I think the IP is owned by the Eastern European developer that makes those games. So yeah,
So I'm hoping that Saints Row will be
Crytek
okay.
bought rights to Homefront, which I assume means they're going after Call of Duty with the Cry engine.
Well, they were announced as developer of Homefront before THQ.
Man, that's a tough market to be in. Do you see that EA has just put
yeah.
Medal of Honor on hiatus?
It's a good choice.
Basically admitting that they can't fight Activision in that on
well,
that
they got
battlefield.
Battlefield.
Yeah, but do they really?
They do.
Take-Two bought Evolve, which is a game that I'd never heard of before. And Ubisoft bought THQ Montreal and the rights to the upcoming game, South Park game. That's the one that went to Ubi. So yeah, and Vigil and Darksiders are dead, it seems.
I think there's an update since then.
All those people are looking for jobs, is what I saw. Anyway, so RIP THQ.
Yeah, let's talk about what were some of the fondest THQ memories.
Saints Row the
I'm
Third.
terrible at like remembering who published
5
games.
years
So, like,
ago,
what-
10 years ago. You got to think about the logo, the old THQ
Homewood.
logo. THQ stood for Toy Headquarters.
Really?
It was
What are some of their better known games? Because again, all I can think of is Saints. I just love the Saints Row games. That's all I care about.
Is Saints Row.
That's all I care about.
Well, they did a bunch of WWE games.
Yeah.
Then they went into toys, into kids games for a long time.
Well, what killed them was that the
That
Wii accessory
tablet thing. Yeah.
The what?
The Wii-
Well, it wasn't the Wii accessory. The Wii accessory sold pretty well. It was
Oh,
the
the
one that they
draw-
made
the
for the
drawing
Xbox
thing?
and the Play On or Play Now or Play Tablet. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, so RIP THQ. I think the early Relic stuff was my favorite all time.
The Relic stuff was probably the best.
Relic was always great.
Yeah, Warhammer. They also
They
had
did all the
Warhammer,
Warhammer. They have a
strat
license.
games. Yeah. So yeah, I'm bummed about that. It's sad to me that when they refocused on making core games for core gamers that they were already too deep down the hole and failed. I really like Darksiders 1. I thought Darksiders 1 was one of my favorite like missed games of that year. It was a really nice take on that kind of open world. It was kind of the real combat, or more real combat, paired with a Zelda-style exploration game that I thought was awesome. If you haven't
Yeah.
played it, it's definitely worth the time.
Yeah.
The first dungeon's a little slow.
Yeah.
Wow. THQ also, they own Big Huge Games. Brian Reynolds' company. But Brian Reynolds just left Zynga. You hear that?
Brian Reynolds did leave
Crazy.
Zynga. Vine, Twitter launched Vine. Vine was a.
Has anyone used it?
I just don't get it.
It doesn't work on the iPhone. The videos don't play.
They don't play on the Really?
Well, they don't play from the browser inside Tweetbot,
Oh.
which is the
that's
only
odd.
place I would ever see them.
I feel really out of it because everyone seems to be really responding to it, and I'm just not getting
So
it.
Twitter bought this company Vine, and I think what Vine is the
It's Instagram
videos,
for video, right? Basically.
which no one has.
Wow.
But Instagram for video was like the buzzword in 2012 because Instagram did so well, and people wanted some way to share video. It's animated GIFs, basically.
If they had made it as an animated GIF creator,
But it's basically that, but you can't share it as a GIF. You can only share it
That's what I'm saying.
as your tweet.
if you could outboard it as a GIF or a tweet video, that'd be great. But it has no functionality to save a video.
I've yet to see a single one that is in any way interesting.
yeah,
And I've looked at Vine Peak and some of these other ones where you can just watch a load of them. They're all really boring. It's like someone
Guess what?
pointing
Most
their
tweets-
camera at a coffee cup for 6 seconds.
most
Who
tweets
cares?
also boring.
But there's some value there.
I
We're
thought
we're
Vine
waiting
Peak
for the
is-
breakout Vine hit.
Yeah,
waiting for
we
Hudson
need
River.
the Hudson River of
We need the
Vine.
Hudson
I can
River
appreciate
Vine.
an interesting photograph, but just like random video phone,
It's
camera
much
phone
harder
footage,
to make a good video than it is to make a good picture.
Yeah, that's the problem, and I haven't seen any interesting ones yet. So I didn't bother downloading it. I'm not on the Vine.
You're a
I don't
hater.
care.
Would you
not
just-
a hater. I'm just completely apathetic about it.
Fair enough.
I think if it made animated GIFs that were high quality, that played,
Yeah.
that
I haven't
that
seen
would be
any
cool.
interesting ones.
I don't understand why it has a separate feed from my Twitter feed. I don't want any more friends list to manage. Like I'm at maximum friend list now. I don't want to have to say, okay, Gary and Norm are my friends on one more fucking service.
God,
I just
yeah.
want to say, take my Facebook friends and use them, or take my Twitter friends and use them. Don't bother me with
Yeah, because you've already got Facebook,
Fuck.
Twitter, Instagram,
Flickr,
Google Plus, Park,
Xbox, Steam,
Xbox,
Origin.
Steam, Origin.
The other day when I sent you that text, I was like, hey,
Yeah.
what's your Origin ID?
Yeah.
I wanted to kill myself immediately after I did that.
So of course I had to download Origin because of SimCity, which I'm sure we'll talk about
talk
later.
about that.
But I'm like, it said like, do you want to add friends? I'm like, I've got to do this all over again. And
Yeah.
it will scan your Facebook friends and stuff and tell you
Yeah.
which of your Facebook
Well, when
friends
that
are on
works.
Origin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my God.
Too many friends lists. We just need a universal friends list service. Somebody should make that, and then everybody
What I
else should hook
discovered
into
is that
that.
very few people I know have Origin.
Yeah, you don't say. And most of the people I know,
But if you played Mass Effect on PC, you had that Origin or Battlefield.
Because
I don't think
because
anybody
what
played
happens
Mass
is
Effect on
everyone
PC.
because what happens is I only signed up for Origin. Everyone needs that watershed game. It's like, oh shit, I guess I got to get Origin. now.
Yeah.
And for me, that was
for me, it was Battlefield 3.
right.
Yeah, so the people on my Origin friends list are the ones that play Battlefield 3 and people who work at EA. Because all of the people I know that played Mass Effect started on Xbox because that's where they started their Shepard.
Right.
Because it was exclusive on the
Right.
first wave. Six strikes policy. So this is a new thing that the ISPs are pushing.
Two big legal things from the past 2 weeks. First, six strikes policy.
Yeah.
Each ISP now has different six strike policy.
What's a six strikes policy?
It's like a 3 strikes, but twice as bad.
But like, what's a strike?
For downloading pirate content. So
Are you notified after each strike?
you are notified after each strike, and for something like Verizon, the first 2 strikes are tame. They get notifications, but after a certain point, they will throttle your bandwidth.
Right.
And then I think if you reach the 6th strike, then they reserve the right to. They can. What can they do?
They can come to the house and kick you in the
And
balls.
what are they doing? Just
No,
like checking to see
get
if
IP,
like
they can get IP.
they're just
stuff.
looking to see if you're going on Pirate Bay or whatever, or like do they have like a blacklist
Probably
of
actually
sites or something?
downloading stuff, and when they get DMCA complaints, would be my guess.
Right. Well, I support that
Wow, there are a lot of
content
people.
creator.
as a
Yeah.
content creator.
There are literally.
Well, and also just as a digital citizen living in our virtual age.
The other big legal thing is that after last weekend, it is illegal to unlock your phone,
Yeah.
a phone that you buy.
Yeah, so this
is
is-
different from jailbreaking. It's not about installing new software.
It's
and
so you can use it on multiple
it's
carriers.
not using it on different carriers.
And this was originally this was something that was
So all those
prohibited.
unlocking booths at the mall, they're probably not too pleased about that because now they're criminal enterprises.
Well, do they
I don't
really
think
have
they were-
unlocking
they were
booths at
not-
the mall?
They were not unlocking booths at the mall.
Yes, there are.
Oh, I've never seen. I
There's,
don't go to
there's
the
one
mall
at our
that much.
local mall. They'll jailbreak and unlock your phone for a fee. They'll do it
Really?
right there, yeah.
Wow. So yeah, this was originally legal because of the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress, as part of the DMCA, has the ability to say, okay, these things are okay as part of fair use, or whatever. The unlocking exemption was originally granted as part of the Library of Congress remissions, is what it's called, I think. I can't remember. Maybe 2 years ago. I want to say it was after we launched tested, but before, not super recently. And that expired in January or last weekend, the 23rd or something, 22nd.
It only applies to new phones that you are unlocking without the carrier's permission.
Yeah, so if you call the carrier, you can still call the carrier and say, hey, I'm going to Europe. I'm going to be there for 3 months. I need to get an orange SIM card for my iPhone. And depending on whether you talk to somebody who's friendly or not, they'll tell you, they'll do it for you.
Or something like AT&T if you're after your 2-year contract
Yeah,
period.
then they have to do it, supposedly. Like Norm said, it doesn't apply to jailbreaking. This is literally just for taking your iPhone and running it on T-Mobile, or taking your Verizon phone and running it on some other CDMA carrier. So it really only applies to GSM users, T-Mobile and AT&T users in the U.S.
Okay.
Intel is bailing out of the motherboard manufacturing business. This is an internal memo that leaked a couple of weeks ago.
All right.
Seems like not that big a deal. They're still going to make chipsets that they'll sell to other vendors.
Yeah.
But you won't be able to buy an Intel brand Intel motherboard. Which
I
I
see
think,
that Philips is getting out of consumer electronics altogether.
Completely.
what are they going to make then? Light bulbs?
Yeah.
Really?
They make
That's
a ton
it.
of stuff.
I never
They're
really
like
thought
GE.
Philips was like a major player in the consumer market.
Philips is
anyway.
like GE. Like GE makes appliances and Philips makes appliances.
Really?
Yeah, Philips is probably one of those companies that makes most of its money manufacturing products that you never have heard of or
You
seen.
know, when you mention it, there was a lot of medical stuff in the hospital that had Philips logos on it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
so
just like they don't want to sell headphones and
good because they didn't make good headphones.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
bully on them.
they make a lot of crappy like iPhone speaker docks and things like that. But
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to be too aggrieved to see those go away.
Okay, good news for them. TSA finally has pulled all those backscatter X-ray machines that the ESA said were dangerous and didn't ever deploy.
not because they were
Are
dangerous.
these the
though.
ones where you have to kind of stand like that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's two types of nudie scanners that the TSA uses. One is the two blue boxes that are like head height, and there's no roof on them. Those are millimeter wave, which have always been safe and are just kind of shitty because they're
Yeah.
nudie scanners. The backscatter X-ray ones are the ones that look like a cylinder
Yeah,
that you step
teleporter.
in.
That's the one I always.
It's a
have to-
Yeah, it
teleporter.
looks like a
The one that's
teleporter. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
and
round.
they're going away.
Well, the one's made by a company called Rapiscan.
yeah.
Why are they
Rapey
dangerous?
scan.
They
They don't acknowledge that they're dangerous,
It's
but
not
the ESA
because-
said they were dangerous.
Yeah, it's not because of the potential like X-ray cancer risk. It's because they did not provide the software to the TSA to block out the nudity, the consumer privacy.
So they can't see your junk.
Okay, fair enough.
So we spent $1 billion or $2 billion on those as a country, and they're now all going to be mothballed. Great,
Awesome. Excellent.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, Obama.
Actually, that's George W. Those all were bought in the. Well, not all of them.
But we already have so much to thank him for. So
Yeah.
I'll give Obama some-
There you go. The millimeter wave ones are the blue boxes. They have the software update that doesn't show your junk.
Yeah, because like oftentimes when I go through those machines, they have a little thing, like a photocopy thing up on the thing that says, "This is what the machine sees."
Yeah.
and it just looks like a kind of
It's just an enormous cock.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
and now it's with the cartoon face.
Yeah, now it looks like the show me on the doll where they touched you picture.
Right.
It's really weird.
Right.
H.265 is a thing. So H.264 is the video standard used on Blu-ray
Video
and most
codec.
streaming. Yeah, video codec used on most video you consume today. What's H.265, Norm?
It's just different algorithms, higher
one better.
compression, and it is a new standard that's been ratified, but we won't see it for about 18 months. You'll need new hardware to code it.
So does that mean new hardware, like new video cards, or new hardware
on
like
dedicated players.
okay,
New
like
hardware.
set-top boxes?
Yes. On the computers, you will have dedicated encoders on your video cards, and I'm sure next-gen CPUs will have that stuff built in, but you can always brute that.
Like VLC style. So what does this mean for? Like this is presumably to be used for next generation 4K content.
Yes.
Is it like better quality at the same bit rate?
50% improvement in compression without degradation in quality.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, nice for bandwidth.
Which is good because the video files be 4 times bigger otherwise.
Yeah.
So you still have twice as big files, but okay, that works. But it's interesting that this isn't going to be supported for 18 months in hardware because that means theoretically if we see next gen consoles this fall, they're not going to support H.265.
That would be very unlikely that next-gen consoles would support H.265.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, presumably they could with a firmware update.
we anticipate
Depends on. Well, I mean, theoretically they should be able to use video card shaders to brute force the stuff without having massive CPU utilization. But it means that it'll be hard for them to do that.
And
unless
current gen consoles, they target only 720p and scale up anyway. At most 720p, sometimes 540. So
well, the video is 1080p on some of the consoles.
streaming video,
Xbox video
yes,
is
Xbox video
is
streaming is
1080.
1080.
Or
I wonder
can
who
be.
came up with the. I'd love to be the person. I mean, it's such a great thing to be able to lay claim to be the guy that came up with the name firmware. Because they're sitting around going, well, look, so we have hardware. That's the actual
Yeah.
box. We have software. That's the program that runs on the
Yeah.
hardware, and that's the software.
Yeah.
But what do you call the software that's kind of baked into the hardware? It's kind of it's in the middle. And someone said firmware because it's halfway between soft and hard.
You want to know the
Yeah, but that is
etymology of
brilliant!
firmware.
I wish I would love to. Yeah, I want to know who came up with it.
We should find that guy.
Yeah.
Get Wes on it.
Okay.
Wes, drop everything.
Inquiring
Stop the
minds
presses.
now want to know. I want to know the answer to that. Who coined
Your curiosity.
coined the term firmware?
We had your attention.
We're running real long right now, so I think let's table
All right,
the next gen console stuff for next week.
Okay.
It seems like there's a lot of crazy predictions. What I will say is that there's a lot of crazy predictions going on. It seems like from what I know, it seems like the hardware is going to matter fuck all, and it's all going to be about ecosystem and services, because the hardware is going to be competent on either side. It seems like on Nintendo or Microsoft. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look at PS3 and Xbox 360, if someone said to you, which one should I get? The last thing you're going to say is talk about like which one's more powerful than the other, because it's a push.
I mean, the hardware matters at the end of the console cycle. At the beginning of the console cycle, what matters is who has the first party games you want.
Yeah.
So that is what I would say on that. And then the last thing is avocados I didn't realize this. Wes wrote a really interesting story about avocados yesterday, and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, avocados are only popular this season because of the Super Bowl.
Like
And they are not supposed to in California. The California
Wait,
avocado
aren't
is not in
avocados always
season.
popular?
The rise of the avocado is intrinsically tied to marketing in the Super Bowl.
It's the dip that goes in the Super Bowl.
Guacamole is the perfect
And we
dip for the
import
Super Bowl
millions of avocados.
from Chile and Mexico.
I enjoy avocado all year round.
But your exposure to the United States is limited to California.
Yeah, so on the East Coast, avocado is not as much of a thing.
Avocados are really expensive on the East Coast.
Right.
I mean,
Gotta ship them all the way out.
I didn't realize that like when I moved here and avocados were free, I just ate avocados with every meal
I
after
love
that.
a good guacamole.
Yeah. I like everything avocado. I like, sometimes I just cut up chunks and put them on a sandwich or in a salad.
I went to Chipotle the other day, and
I'm sorry.
Don't be. I love Chipotle. I think it's great.
It's indicative of
And I
your
got
exemplary taste.
And I got the tacos, and it was like $6.85 or whatever for the 2 tacos. And I said,
Yeah.
I want to add guacamole. She said, well, it's an extra $1.90. And I thought, wow, that's almost a third. That's basically a third of the price of the whole meal. I was like, I still want it though, because guacamole's so good.
Live in large, Gary. Live in large.
And guacamole's expensive anyway. I mean, avocados are expensive.
Yeah, well, it's the perfect food. It has fat, it has carbs, it has protein.
I love it.
It's
Well,
wonderful.
I love it.
I don't think it really has protein.
It
I just
doesn't
made
have
that
a lot
up.
of carbs.
Really, it's all fat.
No, it's all fat. It's all good fats.
It's a good
Perfect.
fat. Oh,
Good
love
fats.
it.
Use
Now I
avocado,
want avocado.
instead of butter. Spread it on your sandwiches. It's creamy.
Apparently, there was a danger of a chicken wing shortage as well, because that was the news because the Super Bowl. There's a phenomenal. I don't remember the number. There's a phenomenal number of chicken wings that get consumed over the Super Bowl.
It's basically a chicken holocaust every winter.
But because corn and feed prices were going up,
Yeah.
it was affecting the chicken wing.
You think McDonald's
market.
could make McRib the Super Bowl sandwich?
No.
No,
Although
'cause
KFC's trying to get into it. They're offering a game day bucket.
don't buy wings from KFC.
Don't buy wings from KFC. Don't buy
buy-
burritos from Chipotle.
Don't ever buy wings from a pizza place either.
I'm not
Just a
gonna-
general
I-
rule of life.
What?
I
Chain pizza place.
all of your food snobbery.
Your
now,
pizza
I
place
just-
is good.
I just tune it all out.
Okay.
All of it.
Hey, I just want to point out I'm still making coffee every day. I know that was your first prediction for what was going to happen after I had the kid.
That's great.
The
You
coffee
stop
would
trimming
trail
your
off.
beard and turn that effort into making coffee.
I've turned my I'm never trimming the beard again. I'm just going to look like Rip Van Winkle in 20 years. I am going to trim the beard again. Just
I
to
thought
be clear.
I thought you have trimmed it. And
I
it's
trimmed the sides down a
intentionally-
little bit.
Exactly. It's
Well,
very,
'cause
it's,
it
full,
looks-
it's full Spartan now.
I'm trying to get long.
If you dye it black,
I'm not dyeing it black. Why would I dye a fabulous red beard like this black? You want to know what's funny is hold on. Let's take a quick break and talk about what we've been testing. So when I was in the hospital, one of the games that the hospital staff plays is who does the kid look like? And the way the math always would work out is they'd walk in, they'd look at me, they'd look at Gina, they'd look back at the beard and say, I think she has red hair. Every time. Every single nurse. When we get a new nurse, a new doctor, a new pediatrician would come in, look at me, look at Gina, look at the kid, look at my beard. I think she has red hair. You've met her, Gary. Does she have red hair? Maybe a little bit?
Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
Certainly fair hair.
Yeah, I mean, it's blondish.
Yeah.
Could be brown, could be red, who knows?
Yeah.
Norm, you tested the GoPro Hero 3.
we did. Joey brought it. We brought it to CES, and Joey's been using it a lot. And we did our review, the GoPro Hero 3 Black Edition.
And you did
not just the silver or the white edition.
Did you guys just do the big long talk? I haven't had a chance to watch the video yet. But
we
did you
did-
do the
we did
big long
both.
talk or did you do the stand up too?
Both.
Nice.
Yes. And we also went out yesterday and shot more comparison footage, which is going up tomorrow.
Okay.
If you want to know the difference between the Hero 2 and the Hero 3 and what that 2.7K footage and 4K footage means for you.
So the interesting thing about it is that it does offer 4K. It's a really cheap 4K camera,
At 15 FPS or 12 FPS.
which seems a little low.
It is very low, not usable.
Okay. So that
But
was my question.
2.7K at 30 FPS, choice.
How long does it take to edit that? Can you post that? You can post that to YouTube now, I guess, right?
You can post up to 4K to YouTube.
Wow.
Straight to YouTube if you want.
That's crazy.
But they still compress. They still
Compress the
keep
show.
some compression.
Okay. SimCity came out. Well, the SimCity beta. If you pre-ordered from Amazon, you got access to the beta, or you could beg for a key from someone, or I think they just took random people as well.
They did. It was only for one weekend. Ended at midnight on Sunday.
And you can only play for an hour at a time.
And you can only play for an hour at a time. You know,
How many laps did each person do?
Well, Saturday was very bad because the servers were down all Saturday afternoon until about 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And then it was still intermittent. So
That was when I had blocked time to play, and I only got one lap, basically.
Friday was good because Friday was not everyone had downloaded it. But the hour limitation was brilliant. It was a free beta. I hate that people are complaining about
It totally left you
beta.
wanting more.
It did its job. It did its job.
Right as it gets hooked into you, they pull it away and say, nope,
Yeah.
see you in March.
How many laps did you guys do?
Well, I did one city. I only did one city. No, wait. Yeah, just one. And it was terrible. And then Leah, who's really into SimCity as well, she had kind of more experience. She did the tutorial, the Summer Shoals place where you can kind of go around. There's a ready-made town. You can go around and introduce you to various features. And then she created a city from scratch and actually created a really pretty impressive. You can, even just in an hour, you can actually create a pretty.
I got to like 25,000, 30,000 people.
The only thing
and had
that's
a lot
really
of fun.
locking you out is not just the time, but also the fact that a lot of the features are not available in
Not
the
in
beta.
beta.
Like really, like the mega streets and the more.
And nothing high density is available,
Yeah.
basically.
Nothing
the
high
fancy
density because of the
buildings.
time.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm very excited about building. I want to try and build like a really big, megalopolis.
Here are the predominant complaints of SimCity so far. One is that the city size is limited to the fixed box. If you remember in SimCity 2003 and 4, your city can be as big as the entire palette. You would see the world cut off at the end.
Right.
And you go into the mountains, lots of different types of terrain. This SimCity, and I guess that's a limitation of the 3D graphics and the simulating of all the little Sims who live there. And
probably they're
businesses
designing it to run on laptops.
and stuff like that, performance, it is constrained to, area-wise, a relatively small space.
Yeah.
The other complaint that people have is that you need to be online all the time, connected to the servers. And if the beta...
and the fact that some people had trouble getting connected, my worry is that on launch day, it's going to be...
It's an MMO launch, basically.
Yeah. That's going to be a problem.
The things that I really liked the focus on. I love the change, tying all the infrastructure to streets, because that's the way I always played the game anyway.
Well, it's what makes sense for real world.
Yeah.
Like you don't draw a box, a 5x5 grid, and that is residential zone, and not the streets. The city designs streets and then designates areas as
so
zones.
basically you lay down streets and then you kind of zone the residential or industrial commercial
Just,
around those city blocks.
the edges,
Correct,
basically.
and
around
you
the
don't
edges of the
drag
streets.
a grid of pipes and say that is all the piping for the city.
Right.
Pipes go along streets.
Yeah, they've taken a lot of the mundane construction stuff out of it, which is nice. And of course, what's beautiful about it is it's so polished. I mean, the cities really look beautiful. The tilt shift effect is really amazing. The cities just look really good.
One of the
Zooming
things,
into the super, when you go into the closest, I mean, it's not how you would build. You kind of zoom out more to kind of get a macro view. But when you go in really close and look at what your city,
You actually kind of like to watch
it. It really does feel like a living place.
I would make that a screensaver.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I loved, and this is something they could have just tuned this way for the beta, but I never had money problems. I always have money problems in SimCity because you kind of build faster than you earn. And
yeah, we always had like positive cash flow.
yeah, I had super positive cash flow.
I'm sure
for the whole
that'll
thing.
change. And again, so much of what makes SimCity interesting is when you start to draw really deep. In an hour, you're not going to get to do, but when you start messing around with the city budget. And obviously, you remember, as the city gets bigger, problems scale upward.
Yeah.
It's actually not that difficult to manage the small city you can build in an hour.
And there's going to be a lot of interaction between different cities.
Right, so that's my question. Let's say all three of us agree we're going to build our city in the same online region.
Is that the way it works? Do we agree, or is it just with random
I
assholes?
think regions are like servers or zones, and we'd have in order for our cities to kind of be able to connect or interact, we're going to have to pick the same region and all be in it.
Okay.
But beyond that, I don't know. I guess we can do deals. I can buy energy from you or whatever, but I don't know.
Garbage.
I don't know how. I don't know how interactive the cities can really be.
So
I can visit your city and look at it.
right.
This says to me then that people are going to build somebody will build a power and trash city.
Yeah, and
right?
then when that city goes under,
Right.
they will troll everyone, and now we have no.
I
trust
do
service.
like the idea of specializations. Like
Yeah.
you can create a Las Vegas gambling type city, or you can
town,
take
yeah.
a Silicon Valley high tech city or an industrial city. I like the idea of being able to kind
A
of
city full of schools.
And then
some
you can
personality.
collaborate, like within the area. For example, if I'm building a San Francisco and you're building a Oakland, we can collaborate.
God, who would want to do that?
I'll have all the crime.
we can
Welcome to
collaborate.
Oakland.
I'll send you
on-
some. Do you need some crime?
Yeah.
I happily provide it.
Yeah.
You can be a daily city. Then we can collaborate on a local airport, a big airport.
But then that's what the great
structure,
works are, right?
So that's the key. We want to make sure that we all join up the same region,
Yeah.
so that we can have those features. But man, I tell you, that beta really did its job. Like after an hour, you forget how pervasive these games are.
Well, it was just a sound effect because there have been city building games. Like there was a big city building game boom. You have Cities XL. You had all the Monopoly games. You had village building games, all types of city building
Yeah.
games.
But SimCity's
SimCity
always been the true master.
Has they borrow elements from other games, even SimCity Societies. But there's a nostalgia. There's a Ratatouille factor in there. That when you hear the power
yeah.
go online, the water go.
They captured the feel, even though there's been a big gap since the last one. The music was perfect. Everything felt like you were right back in that SimCity.
Reticulating splines.
That happy place.
Reticulating splines.
Yes, all the little features. And also, what's interesting, I don't think the previous Sims had this, because this is the first thing I'm right in saying is like the first SimCity game since The Sims
No,
itself.
SimCity 4 was after The Sims.
Okay, but I mean, this is the first one that feels like, like characters speaking Simlish at me and stuff, kind of feels like...
Societies might have had that.
Society's definitely had that, but you could hook your Sims into SimCity 4, I think. Maybe it was the other way around. Like you could see Bella Goth walking around SimCity 4.
I'm very excited that the guy that built that, what was that mega city that guy built, is going to do one in the new SimCity.
Oh, the Megalopolis, the maximum density city?
the one that was like the ultimate Coruscant type city.
The other thing I really liked about this is they do a really good job of exposing the stuff that you previously had to kind of understand a lot of core mechanics of how the game worked in order to get, like the bus. Now when you place a bus stop, when you're dragging it around and figuring out where you want to put it, it shows you which houses are going to be affected by it and which are in range. Before you had to know.
So when you place your bus stops,
Yeah.
you can see what area that bus stop serves, and you can make sure that everything joins up. It's very they've done a good job of making it very easy to understand.
Yeah,
visually.
before you had to know that they'd only cross like 2 streets or whatever the rule was.
So you wrote a piece, Norm, about like applying real urban planning principles to the game. How did that
I'll
work
make it
out?
look very pretty. And one of the developers talked to me, and he said he got the best out of the grid stuff, but only works in late game when you have apartment buildings.
That's what I thought, when you can
And-
increase the density on the road.
And if you don't increase it by yourself, you can affect, but by growing your city and having people want to move into your city, then the people because you don't control like whether a house is a shack or a mansion. That's a byproduct of how successful and how prosperous your city is.
Right.
If your city is very prosperous and the conditions are right, then the developers will come in and want to build sky rises and that will increase your population density.
But on the other hand, if you have like a lot of avenues that are high density roads, then you'll get brownstone apartment buildings or something like that instead of say Elm Street.
From
like,
a simulation
lime trees.
aspect, it's interesting to want to emulate how real cities are designed, just like in terms of retail, distribution of retail and residential. Like we think, oh, okay, there's a mall that's connecting this part of town, or in the suburbs, you have one central shopping Walmart, and then all the houses radiate around that. Does that make sense in the simulation world?
But the thing is, cities aren't really created that way, are they? Cities just kind of naturally evolve over decades.
Well, it depends on the city. Some are super planned.
old
Well, no, I mean,
cities-
some are. I mean, like there are new towns that are created from scratch, and they do say, "Well, let's just come to the kind of city we want to be." But most cities that have been around for
but even stuff like
100 years or
that's
more
the appeal of
just
SimCity.
grew out.
Yeah.
They just grew naturally.
The appeal of SimCity is you are the city planner. You are the one person developer, city planner who gets to set the future for that town, but you have this constraint, so it's not like you're building a city in the desert.
I am very excited about it. I
Yeah.
can't wait for March 5th.
I'm-
I've got to
I'm-
figure out how I'm going to buy it. If I want to get the digital version, I'll get a CD with the.
I bought it on Origin.
So if you buy it on Amazon,
you get
if
$20 back.
$20 back only if you buy the DVD edition.
Right.
Yeah, not
If you
doing
buy
that.
the digital download edition or the download only edition, you get $5 back.
Not doing that.
Do that.
But my question is, since you all have to go through Origin no matter what,
Yep.
will the DVD edition will just give you a code that you can use to download on Origin? Because if so, if you order now, you get that day.
I'm going to explain to you what's going to happen when you do that. You're going to order the DVD edition, and you're going to be waiting for the code from Origin all day, and that's going to be the day that UPS brings it by your house at 8:30 at night, and you're going to be super duper pissed off, and you're going to end up buying it from Amazon from Origin anyway, and returning it to Amazon.
When I bought games from Amazon, they've usually been pretty good about same day delivery, and maybe by actually having the data on a disk, downloading it all from Origin on the same day that everyone else is. Maybe that's one step you don't have to worry
Amazon Origin does preloads now. I think
maybe they should preload.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking at the digital deluxe and wondering if I want to pay the extra.
I paid the extra $20.
I mean,
I feel dirty. I feel bad doing it.
The extra stuff didn't sound great to me.
Yeah, Heroes and Villains.
And
Eiffel Tower.
French and German cities. Who cares?
Fair enough. I want to go cancel my Origin pre-order and get the $59 one.
But I am excited about it. I haven't been excited about a game in a long time.
Yeah, it's. I
feel like a game that they're going to try to rip you off in with like the same way the Sims did with expansion packs that you're going to have to pay for a lot of extra.
If
If it's successful, then of course they'll continue to bolt things onto it forever.
Norm, when you were in Vegas, you got to drive the Mondo Spider.
Yeah, we should explain what the Mondo Spider is.
So 2 years ago at Maker Faire, first year of tested, we went to Maker Faire, and the first thing we saw going into the fair were these guys driving a gas-powered, 8-legged walking machine. Looked like a killer death machine, maybe something from Wild Wild West.
It wasn't that tall, but yes.
It was
Size of a
awesome
car.
and scary.
Size of a car, a
small
dude.
car.
It walks.
Yeah.
And the guys who made it, they're based in Vancouver. They made it in 1996.
Really? No, 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
And they have since they were sponsored to convert it into an EV. So now it's an
electrical
electric
vehicle?
walker.
Okay.
So it has 2 control sticks. You push both. Each control stick controls 4 legs on one side.
Okay.
And so you can push both forward to run forward.
So it's tank controls.
Tank controls, or you can push one up and push one back, and then you turn in place, and it sounds incredibly loud.
Okay. Like clank, 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 clank.
Clank, lots of clanking, and it's very cool.
Did you feel like you could take over the world when you were driving it?
I felt like you need to be higher above the ground.
Like do you want an eye patch or anything? Like some sort of evil
I felt
genius?
like if there was a Lego town in front of me, like one of those small miniature scale Lego towns, I would walk all over that.
And destroy it all.
Literally.
Okay. Was it as cool as it looked? The video, it looked really cool.
Yes, it was very cool.
If you could sell your car and buy that as a mode of transport to and from work.
I would not do that.
Okay. Does it go over uneven ground? Or does it have to be like
it did
asphalt?
not feel like it could go over, it could traverse like really harsh
Like
terrain.
a hill.
It probably could do a hill.
Okay. Couple of other things. We'll talk about baby stuff at some point in the future. Maybe we'll save that for a potential dadcast. Nexus 4. You have a Nexus 4 there. Have you put a SIM card in? Did you just get here this morning?
Just came in this morning.
This looks really
they're
big.
not selling. They're now selling. It's back in stock. Nexus 4 in both capacities, and people I think who ordered one this week got it 2 days later.
Okay.
Even though it said 2 to 3 weeks online, so we finally have one. $300 off contract, unlocked. Completely.
Timely.
And so far, I have my stuff imported. All my Nexus 7 stuff now imported on here.
Oh, that's nice. And Google Now, does it seem like Google Now is working just out of the box, or does it still have to learn about you first, do you think?
It has all my Google Now stuff.
Okay, that's good.
So it knows if I've searched a place recently, then it'll tell me where to go.
The last thing that people may not have seen on the site, I thought it was really cool. You and everybody, it seems like, went to the Neon Graveyard in Vegas when you were there for CES. There's a video up on the site, but I want to talk about it a little bit because it's you should explain what it is first.
Neon Graveyard is a museum. It's part of the Neon Museum, Neon Boneyard, and it's a place that collects the signs of Las Vegas since the 40s all the way to now. So when you talk about something like famous Vegas icons like the Stardust,
or like the Frontier
Algiers,
sign with the guy, the cowboy with the arm.
they don't
goes up
have
and
that,
down.
but signs like that. It's a big part of Vegas history, and actually has an interesting tie to typography because, like a sign like the Stardust, that's
It's kind of like a scripty, like an old Buena Vista logo or something, right?
That font was very indicative of the space age.
Yeah.
But it was not created with that in mind at all, and it was created specifically for that sign.
Huh.
But when people think of Jetsons in the space age and the sparkling, sharp edges of a font, that's what they think.
It looked really interesting. It seemed like the kind of thing that would be a setting for a multiplayer map in a video game. Like watching the video, it seemed like there were a lot of paths and a lot of weird stuff in the background.
I feel like someone said it was in Rainbow Six Vegas.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm not sure if that's actually the case.
Do they light it up at night, or I assume all this?
Some of it's like
Okay, but a lot of them don't work. I would
You can
assume.
also
at this
get
point.
married there
Really?
for
How much does it
very
cost?
cheap, like $100.
Are there tours and stuff?
They do tours.
It's like by appointment only,
By
though,
appointment.
right? Okay.
Yes.
It looked really cool. I'll definitely go there next time I got. You guys went to Lotus of Siam a bunch too.
We went to Lotus Sam twice.
Gary,
Did
did
you
you?
go to a hiding place?
We went there every night.
It's the best.
Got a whole pizza.
I love that meatball pizza.
Yeah, meatball
it's
pizza
so
is pretty good. Did you miss CES this year, Gary?
Yeah, I did. I wish I could have gone, but I actually got really sick. I was recovering from a pretty gnarly cold over that period. So
Yeah.
even if I had planned to go, I wouldn't have been able to.
Were you at the Cosmo last year or the year before?
No, last year I was at Planet Hollywood.
But
The year before
you were
you
at
was at Cosmo.
No, I was never at the Cosmo.
Oh, you
You
never
were at the
stayed there?
Aria.
No,
They do they have an ice skating rink on top of the Cosmo.
I don't ice skate. I saw pictures of you and Veronica up there, though.
Well, we got an hour to kill before Patrick got there.
There you go.
Ice skating.
Let's take some questions and call it a show.
Emails?
Well, but we do the other one.
Emails.
'Cause it's, we don't do emails. We do
Emails?
No.
Questions. Boom.
If you have a question for This Is Only Test, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Keep the questions short, under 45 seconds, and make sure it doesn't sound like you're recording them with a potato. Here is the first question.
Hey, what's up, Tested Crew? This is Christopher from Arlington, Virginia. A piece of hometown trivia for you guys. Arlington, Virginia is home to the Arlington National Cemetery. Within the cemetery is a house which is preserved by the National Park Service, which serves as a memorial to Robert E. Lee. My question for you guys is about gaming platforms. With Valve bringing more information about the Steambox to light and Nvidia joining the Android-based developer market with their Shield platform, how likely do you think the market will change in light of these smaller, yet open-source gaming consoles? Also, a comment. I'm a California native, and I wanted to give a response to the remark Norman said about Shake Shack being better than In-N-Out. After driving to New York for a weekend, I can tell you, no, it's not.
You're wrong.
Thanks again, guys, and always be testing.
I'm not getting into the Shake Shack In-N-Out business or the Robert E. Lee business.
So do you remember what the question was in the middle? Is the question.
Yes, I do.
Well, Will, what are your thoughts about what the gentleman asked?
I think that.
Gaming platforms?
Oh, right. I think that ultimately two different kinds of experience. I mean, here's the thing: nobody knows what's going to happen with consoles this generation because we don't know what pricing is going to come in at. We don't know what the hardware is going to look like yet.
He was talking about Android and NVIDIA.
Yeah, I don't think that Android and NVIDIA is going to make a huge impact. I do think that a relatively inexpensive Steam box could have kind of an impact on the console market. Because I think at this point, Steam is big enough as a platform
Gabe Newell.
that the game publishers have to pay attention to
Gabe
it.
Newell is such a troll. He said
Talking about Apple.
the biggest competitor to Steam
Yeah.
is Apple.
Yes. Well,
Apple's their biggest. Which if you talk about like how people buy stuff spontaneously and
if you're talking
low
about
cost,
volume and unit sales, probably he's right. But if
he
you're
just hates Microsoft so much.
he does hate Microsoft a lot. I don't think he hates. I think he's disappointed by them constantly.
Well, who isn't?
The thing is though, I play games on a lot of different platforms, and I play a lot of games on iOS. I play a lot of games on consoles, or in the past I have. You don't get the kind of depth that you get from even like a $15 indie game on a PC or a console that you do on iOS yet, for the most part. If I wanted to play The Cave, which is something I actually spent time playing this last 2 weeks, there's nothing that has that kind of narrative depth and that much thought going into it on the console on the mobile platforms at this point, or it's very rare. And that's not to diminish The Cave.
And even
I
a
think
game
that it's
like-
a fantastic game.
a game
and
like
you should
Bastion.
play it. Yeah,
It had
it's
to
a
be-
bad experience on the.
It's not what developers intended.
If it was on iOS first, it would not have been lauded as an excellent game. In order, the way the combat mechanics of that game worked, you needed to have physical controls, and you don't get that on the phones right now. That said, I think that the Wii U kind of model, where you have a handheld that's attached to a larger thing, could actually be kind of interesting. But Nvidia is not going to price that Shield
Well, and
thing.
I think you're going to, I think for that
For
reason,
mainstream.
Ouya is potentially interesting.
No.
And, it's not difficult, I guess, to imagine Apple coming up with some kind of more capable version of the Apple TV that could play apps, i.e. games.
Well, A5X could conceivably be that device. I just don't think people are going to. I'm not willing to take the TV from my wife and or child to play an Android or iPhone game where I would to play a console game. Like I'm not going to compete for time on the good TV for that.
Right.
And I know that I'm an exception because I'm a San Francisco nutball who only has one TV in the house. I also have a tiny little house.
Yeah, I mean, like, bachelors who sit at home and just, their TV is theirs.
Yeah.
Don't understand it. But when you live in a family household where there's competition for the TV, then yeah, that's why. Like Gabe from Penny Arcade loves the Wii U because his kids want to watch TV, but he can pick up his Wii U gamepad and play his
play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna make a big difference. And I think Shake Shack's shakes are definitely better than In-N-Out. And I think
Shakes,
I haven't
burgers.
tried Shake Shack. I haven't tried
Shack's
Five Guys either.
Five Guys.
Five Guys is okay. The song about Five Guys is better than
I
Five
like
Guys.
In-N-Out.
The thing about In-N-Out is the quality is real up and down.
Super duper.
Super duper. It's the
I
real
had a
duper.
burger in Washington D.C. that was fantastic.
Where was it?
I can't remember. It was on it was on K Street, and it was really good. And it was really. We just got to the hotel. We were really hungry, and I went out to get a burger. I didn't want to go too far. It was like I planned to go somewhere else, but I was like, oh, this place is much closer. Oh man, it was a good burger.
The two burger places that live in the city now are Super Duper and Rome.
I haven't been to Rome.
I do like Super Duper Burger. I like Jenny's in the Sunset is real good.
Where's that?
It's on Irving. It's across the street from Park Chow. It's good.
Oh, okay. I haven't been there. I've seen it though.
I do like a good burger.
I've eaten a lot of salads the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I can grill one piece of chicken, and then that lasts like 3 days. It's all about time management, it turns out. That'll do it for us this week. As always, thank you, Norman Chan, Gary Whitta. Anything to plug this week, guys? Walking Dead's out now. The discs are out if you want to buy
I don't
the
have
whole
anything
season.
left to plug on the Walking Dead front. I might have something new soon though.
Ooh, tease.
Watch this space.
You want to talk about any predictions since we haven't done for
Well,
you?
let's do that in fake outtakes.
Okay.
And that'll do it for us this week. Today's outro comes at you from someone I don't remember. Thank you for submitting it. Here it is. Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested.
Just drove up with my van. I was like, hey kids, any of you want some ice cream?
Tested.
If I had listened to that one before I played it,
I like
I
that one.
probably wouldn't have used
like
that
that
one. Okay, so a few weeks ago we did predictions while you were away, Gary.
I'm glad to have missed that one because those predictions usually have a way of coming back around.
Well, we also
Fighting
reviewed
you.
the predictions from
Yeah.
years past.
Oh,
ago.
okay, all right.
And
How'd you do?
Norman and I did pretty well.
Pretty well.
You used an approach that was, I don't want to say wide ranging.
What did I just say? I predict that stuff will happen.
You
in
predicted
the tech market.
You predicted a lot of. You took a real softballs, is what
I
the
predict
consensus was.
some companies will go up and some will go down.
Yeah. For example, you said
I predict that new paradigms will emerge. And the market will be disrupted.
You said that 2012 is the year that other competitors will take market share from Apple in the tablet market. Pretty safe bet coming into 2012, given that Apple had 98% share in tablet market.
But there was no sign of that changing. They were utterly dominant. So I actually I called the tipping point at exactly the right time.
You said that
we all underestimated the extent that the Kindle, especially the Kindle Fires and Nexus 7, have been just welcome.
Yeah, and the other thing I think that's happened is that in a very fragmented Android market, this would have been a better, more specific prediction to make, is that in the Android phone market, a true flagship emerged in the form of the Galaxy S3.
Which is so surprising because we hated on.
I mean, it's actually
Captivate
interesting.
And on
The
TouchWiz for so long.
iPhone is
the first gen.
the iPhone is a very, very specific concrete brand built around a single device that everyone knows. Android has got huge market share, but it's very kind of nebulous, and there's all these different phones and handsets, and it has this kind of much more kind of amorphous identity.
Yep.
But so I always thought it was very unlikely that one actual phone, one specific brand and type and model of Android phone would actually achieve like real brand recognition in its own right. And the Galaxy 3 S3 has done that.
And we thought it would be the Nexus because it would be the pure
I always said
experience.
that, and I was right. It was actually the S3 that's done it.
It's Samsung's. There's the strength of their marketing, whether it's combination, due in part to those anti-Apple ads, the sheep ads.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was to do in part. I think marketing was part of it. I think part of it was they actually seem to have made a really good phone.
It's a worldwide brand too. I mean,
it's a
they
worldwide
are
brand,
and it's cheap.
And they are able to market at the same level as Apple. I mean, maybe not quality-wise, but definitely there's.
But you know
one
what?
of the few
It's not just
companies that
marketing because people are buying not only the first-gen notes but the second-gen notes. People want those 5.5-inch
Well,
phones.
here's the thing:
Well,
if you don't put your phone in your pocket, the Note is an awesome phone.
I know.
I don't think it's just people who keep.
One or two
It's
friends.
a lady phone.
One or two friends
I don't
of mine
think
that
it's
were
just
always
ladies.
like hardcore iPhone guys have gone over to the S3. They just prefer it.
Right. I mean, honestly, the only thing that's keeping me on Apple at this point is the fact that I have now integrated PhotoStream with all my photo.
I love that.
My entire my pictures for my Next go to the PhotoStream now.
Yeah.
And
So
the
I think
app situation.
that's been a big.
Okay, I'm not going to go down all of these. You said that the Wii U will do better than the Wii long term. It's a little early to say anything there, but given the sales forecast, that's probably not looking so good.
A year later, I would take that one back.
You can't take back a prediction.
No, I'm not. I mean, I would look at it and say and admit that's one that I was probably wrong about.
You said that 2012 will be a breakthrough year for a la carte internet TV. Not so much.
No, but that prediction's not wrong. It's just taking a little longer. That's still going to happen.
2015.
I mean, House of Cards is the beginning of that
That's
process.
true. Well, that's
That's a la carte.
That's not really a la carte because you're still buying the bundle. A la carte is iTunes.
Well, no, a la carte is like if you just want to pay for HBO, you're paying
No,
for.
a la carte,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like there's been rumors for a while now that Intel is going to roll out this service that is truly like build your own cable lineup.
Well, there's a company.
You like $5 a channel per month or whatever,
Right.
and I say I want these 15 channels, and I don't want the other 50 that I never watch but I have to pay for. And that's going to be the new model.
There's a company doing that out of DC now. New York now, where you basically pay a limited amount of money to get all the broadcast channels, and then theoretically they're going to start adding paid channels like Bloomberg and stuff like that to it on an a la carte basis.
Right.
They're going to get sued into oblivion. It seems.
What do you think has a better chance of surviving, an a la carte buy by channel model or an a la carte buy by show model?
I think an a la carte buy by show model is inevitable. I think the a la carte buy by channel model is going to be fought tooth and nail by Comcast and Charter and the cable companies.
I think what consumers want is buy the show, because I don't think like network or cable brands meaning like maybe HBO and a couple of others, but like I don't really
know
like.
what's gonna happen?
I might like Community, but that doesn't mean like NBC.
Here's the thing. You're never going to get the buy by channel model because NBC and ABC own a vast majority of cable channels. All of the Bravo, Lifetime,
want you to buy the
NBC,
Bravo stuff.
all of that
They
stuff.
want you to buy all
they're
the
not going to participate. Because Comcast owns NBC. NBC won't be on any of those. None of those NBC family channels will be there. Because Disney owns ABC, none of the Disney stuff will be on those a la carte channels.
Did I predict anything that was like way wrong?
You predicted, you did a lot that were like 6-year predictions. Next gen Xbox will be backwards compatible with the previous version. Oh, you said a next gen Xbox will be announced at E3 2012 along with a better version of Kinect. We were wrong on both of those.
I'm a year off with that one.
You're a year off. You said that the PlayStation Vita will be a dud.
I was right about that.
Well, it's too soon to say, I think.
No, it's not.
Okay. You said that Facebook will have a redesign and people will complain about it.
That was
safe
a safe
right.
banker. I'm going to go visit the Facebook campus in a couple of weeks.
Oh, you're working on
Apparently-
Social Network 2?
No, I just got a friend.
Network harder?
I have a friend who works there, and he said he'd take me on a tour. Did you know? Apparently, it's amazing. They have a whole all the restaurants and food court stuff there is all completely free.
Yeah.
Well, just like Google.
They have a burger restaurant there called
The Zuckerburger?
it's called Zuckerburger.
That's terrible.
Yes.
It's really, really awful.
Yes.
Netflix on hoodie.
You said there will be a good Nexus tablet in 2012.
I was right
hit
about that
one.
I got that one right.
You said that 3D will seriously decline in 2012.
I think I've been right about that as well.
I think if you said 2013, for sure. Because CES 2013, no 3D
The
stuff.
shine has definitely come off it.
Yeah.
Fewer and fewer movies advertising themselves as being in 3D.
You were right that there would be no branded Apple TV television.
Right? We haven't really seen whatever it is that
1
Apple's
year
planning in TV. We haven't seen that at all yet.
Yeah, so that's
That's still.
So you did a bunch of real safe
That
bets.
one's still pending.
So what Norm and I, we reformatted the predictions.
Well, there's safe bets after the fact. They're not no predictions necessarily safe at the time.
I think they were pretty safe at the time. We refactored the predictions game for 2013.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're giving an issue, and then you say whether you agree or disagree on it.
Okay, go on then.
Branded TV from Apple in 2013. Television.
Like an actual panel.
Like an actual television with a screen.
No.
No.
I forget what we said. Or,
You and I both said yes.
yeah.
Oh, so I'm the outlier.
I think that's the March event this year. I'll even
I
know
don't
what
think
that's.
there's, I don't think there's a
It
screen.
would totally make sense if you're pushing iPads in the
Yes.
fall. They need something for March.
New consoles this year from Sony and Microsoft.
Yes.
I think we also
Apple will release next full-sized iPad. Apple will release a next full-sized iPad, which is thinner, lighter, and faster. A new body design, basically,
for the full size.
for the full size.
This seems much less interesting
Yes or
way
no?
of doing it.
Will did not like the fact that the way we did it last time, because we cycled through everyone.
If somebody
people
went-
called dibs on the easy.
The person who went last got all the head was fucked, basically.
Okay, yeah, I think that the next full size iPad will follow the mini.
A new body design.
It will be the
Okay.
mini design.
Let's give you a yes there. Apple iPad event in September.
or in the fall.
So
Was
what
it
they
in the
would roll
fall?
it?
We said in
so
September.
it would get rolled into the iPod event.
I'm just reading the note written on the page.
I don't know. I'm finding it very difficult to predict Apple right now. I don't know what they're going to do next because I'm hearing a lot of rumors about them shuffling things around. Like iPhone 5S is going to come early.
I'm going to give you an NA there.
Yeah.
You don't. Okay. I mean, this is circling back to what we were talking about 2 hours ago. But Apple does the 1 year product cycle. Does it make sense for them to go to 6 months for a phone?
No.
See, the problem is all this lets us do is pick yes or no answers to a bunch of like potted topics, as opposed to like
Well, they
coming out of
weren't
the
potted
box-
topics when we came up
coming
with
out with
them. We
really
weren't here that day.
interesting conversation, really interesting ideas.
Well, I'm happy canning the whole thing.
That's an
I'm really
interesting idea.
hungry.
Let's come with
I
interesting
want to eat
ideas.
some food.
Oh no.
What is your bold 2013 prediction?
All right. I mean, I don't know how
bold-
bold. I don't know how bold it is, but okay, I'll make this prediction. I think that I think BlackBerry's gone at the 12 months from now.
Survive. Okay.
I think that's bold.
I don't think that's.
I actually think it is kind of bold because I think that
I don't think it's gonna
off the back of BlackBerry 10, I think they'll make a real effort to stick around. But I don't think they've got the resources to do it. I think that thing needs to be a really big hit early, or they're just going to run out of money. Who would? Put
My
money
prediction
into
for
that company?
2013 is that the Google glasses are going to be completely unusable.
I think that's a safe bet because that's a 2014 product.
Well, I think okay. So then my safe bet for 2014 is that they're going to be completely unusable.
I've got another one. I think in the post for I don't know if they can do it all in 1 year, but I do think the next iOS the skeuomorphism will go away. I think there'll be a new.
We need to have a separate. We saved skeuomorphism
We already did
talk
this.
for a second podcast.
That's already on the
because
list.
Skeuomorphism, that's way misunderstood and misconstrued.
Yeah, I think we should talk about something else.
You know what? I thought was good. I saw that Ars Technica ran a story that probably most people on Ars Technica probably don't need to be told. But I'm glad to see a light shone on it because I think it's one of my tech pet peeves. Is whenever I see one of these ads on TV that says, "Why is my PC so slow?" Oh, I'll go to clean up my PC.
Oh, yeah.
And it will fix all my problems. Bullshit.
It's a scam.
And I wrote a very detailed article about exactly why it's a scam. And I'm glad. I wish that I'd like to see USA Today run that story, like people that actually might fall for these bullshit products.
What is the reason that it's a scam?
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. It's nothing you can't do yourself for free
Well,
very
it's
easily.
true.
And also what it's really doing. I'll give you a good example. It's basically the equivalent of like a shady mechanic that will find things wrong with your car just so he can charge you to fix them.
Right.
So like I said, so they ran one of these cleanup PC apps on a totally new PC. They had done a clean install of Windows. They had nothing on it.
Right.
So there theoretically should be no issues. And it found over 1,000 issues.
So these are things. This is a thing we did the story on Max PC years
the app
ago.
is free, but once they've found 1,000 things wrong with your PC, most of which are made up, they charge you
$50 to fix
them.
Yeah. So we did a story about this. These apps have been around for a long time. The new thing is that they're marketing them on TV. They must be so profitable that they can buy those because the thing is, like, a late night cable TV ad slot isn't particularly expensive.
Right.
Like inside South Park, it's expensive. Inside Tosh.0, it's pretty cheap. You can $200. You can
Highest
get
rated Comedy
them
Central
whenever
show.
you want. Tosh.0, really?
Yep.
America sucks.
Yep. I'll fix your PC and I'll buy your gold.
Fuck you guys. Don't watch. Oh, God, that guy's such an asshole.
I tell you what is good. I discovered It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I'd never seen before.
Oh.
And I thought I was surfing Netflix and looking for something new. Okay, I'll watch the pilot. I mean, I know people like it.
Oh, it's so
I got
good.
totally sucked into it.
Yeah.
I'm like 5 seasons in.
They're such horrible people.
Yeah, I mean,
horrible
what,
people.
What I liked about it was, even like 6 episodes in, I was like, how much lower can these people go?
Oh, yeah.
And yet they continue to go much, much lower.
It's like it's the same thing that I like about watching Curb, right? You want to see how bad a person Larry David can possibly be.
Except that's within the bounds of like
a wealthy
Well, I mean, so
Los Angeles guy.
I guess for a while the popular definition of it was Seinfeld on crack, which is kind of what it is.
Yeah, I can see
like,
that.
there's an episode in the first season where they go on welfare and become crack addicts and rooting out dumpsters and like, yeah, like how can they possibly go lower? Well, like 3 episodes later, they're hunting homeless people for sport, and I'm like, okay, like there's always a lower, there's always
they get a
somewhere lower.
baby.
they're in a fictional reality.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about it. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm really enjoying that show right now.
So, does that show reset every week? Are they in a Groundhog Day loop?
Yeah, I mean it's totally as Norm says, it's a heightened, it's a Tom and
Yeah.
Jerry reality where there's never any real consequences.
Some continuity for the big events, but that's it.
There are many things that they've done where at the end of the episode they should all be dead or in jail, and yet everything just resets for the next episode.
Wake up the next morning, Sonny and Cher are playing again.
Yeah,
I haven't watched any TV while we've been gone.
yeah. Well, you've been
hard
too
to
busy.
believe.
Yeah,
I've changed a lot of diapers.
but you know those cleanup ads. I would like to see the mainstream media highlight what a con they are, because it's outrageous. So one of the ways that they
my
inflate
God.
their numbers is any cookie that's on your
It's one problem.
is an issue.
Any tracking cookie.
Yeah.
It's just like crap cleaner. Hey, check this out.
Oh, he got you.
Oh my god. Oh. Oh, it's like
He's
oh
gonna get you.
my oh.
And on that note, I guess we'll end it for this week.
Is the baby in that?
No.
The baby was in it. Now that's just an empty sack.
That was the baby's home for like 9
oh my
months.
God,
See,
it
look,
looks like
you
it's out of
can
Aliens.
see.
sack without a K.
It
Yeah.
looks like it's from Aliens.
Yeah.
It's just dangling.
Why is it so red?
It's just
Was
it's
full of
nature.
blood.
It's biology.
Yeah. Circle of
miracle
life,
of-
man. You
yeah.
lived in one of those once. You had a duplex.
You were in there for 9 months.
Yeah, with your
No,
brother.
no. We separate.
Oh, really?
side-
Separate sacks?
Separate sacks. Different side of fallopian tube. Projects.
Yeah, the placenta
nice
divides
area.
when it's twins.
Not always.
No. 2 types of twins.
Yeah, fraternal
fraternal.
twins.
Right.
And identical, you split off from the same cell.
Right.
And
I think
on
you're
one
still
side
inside the same
fallopian
sack,
tube,
dude.
2 different sides of fallopian tube.
But the fallopian tube is just where the eggs come from. And
Yeah, you
twin
don't-
eggs
the
can come
ba-
from
the
the
baby
same
doesn't grow
fallopian
in the
tube.
fallopian tube, dude.
Right.
Biology?
Do twins have
between 2
two? Do twins have
Oh, this is good.
2?
What do I eat for lunch?
I don't know. Anything.
What are they called?
What?
What's the sack called?
Placenta.
No. Placenta's
Oh, like
thing
the
that
actual
attaches. Yeah.
sac thing? Embryonic sac, I guess. I don't know.
No. It's
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God! I can't believe I.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I'm past all that now. I finished that level.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you when you brought the girl Wonder over, when you guys came over, and your lovely daughter had pooped on the way there. That I had easy poops. I've had training wheels poops.
I noticed that when I went off to change her diaper, you seemed to want to watch to see if there's any.
I wanted a glimpse into the future.
But like I said, I'm playing on a totally
Oh my
different
God.
difficulty level.
It's like pro
nothing,
bowler.
nothing I'm doing can help you now, but it can prepare you for
my
later.
God.
No spoilers
That was
for your levels.
absolutely the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. That was a full contact poop. It was like all
and
over
I said,
everywhere.
that wasn't even a full blowout. I've seen some doozies.
Oh, Norman's
back.
right. If they aren't identical twins, they have 2 separate sacs and placentas. If they are identical, then they have 1 sac and 1
I
placenta.
got the higher tax rate one.
Wow, your brother got the poor one?
He got the projects.
He's the pores.
Wow.
So no, that's not nice. We'll see you guys next week.
Perfect. That was the perfect end.